What is happening, Internet? This is your host, Nightwing01 here, K-Wing, whatever you want to call me. We don't have a fun topic to discuss tonight. I actually was planning on playing Ghost of Tsushima, and, well, DC's not doing very well. Now, I know there are people celebrating this on Twitter, and I don't think that's a very wise thing. I always view Marvel and DC as kind of conjoined twins. They need both to, live. And if one dies, well, the other is going to follow pretty quickly. And if you think that Disney is not going to close down their comic book branch of Marvel Comics, well, they did the same thing to their video game branch not long ago because they made a little bit less than projected. If I remember correctly, Disney Infinity 3.0 made about $2.5 billion, and they needed to make at least $3 or $3.5 billion, and Disney closed not just Avalanche, but they shut down their entire video game division and then just licensed out their stuff like that. Hundreds and hundreds of people lost their jobs instantly, and Avalanche ended up becoming a part of Warner Brothers Games, if you didn't know that. They helped create some other stuff. But, I don't like when these big corporations see an opportunity to cut costs, like what we saw with WB Games as a whole, which now apparently WB Games is okay, but DC is feeling the heat right now. Several editors, whether woke or not, have been let go overnight. Some of them were gloating the other night about the Wonder Woman cover, which, let's face it, it was terrible, even though it was a variant done in horrible taste, and it was just another reason for comic pros to attack their consumers. And that's exactly what happened over the weekend. I don't know if necessarily if this has been building for a while or AT&T wasn't cool with a lot of these comic pros attacking people, because those same comic pros that were praising and, saying ists and phobes and going after their own consumers for having a different opinion about why the cover was terrible, they all lost their jobs. They're gone. But we lost some good people at DC's editorial staff too. Some guys that have been around for a very, very long time that actually knew Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. They've been responsible for helping a lot of stories, a lot of arcs. They're gone. So what does this mean? Well, this means that they could bring in suits that know nothing about comics. So you could have people that are inept, just like some of the editors that have been with DC that were former Marvel people that caused issues. You could also have people that have a more broader vision of what they want. Basically, Batman is Bruce Wayne. Dick Grayson is Nightwing. They want to make a movie after that. There were rumors several months ago, I think it was about 6 to 8 months, floating around that they wanted to restructure DC Comics, AT&T did, and Warner Media, so that they could make a more movie-friendly or TV-friendly comic, so that if people were picking up something, they would know immediately, okay, Bruce Wayne is Batman, Clark Kent is Superman, and we know that Dan Didio's plans for DC were totally off the rails. AT&T came in, got rid of Danny Boy real fast, and killed the DC 5G thing, which had woke Twitter pretty upset. But we, here on this channel, we thought it was awesome, because we knew that DC 5G was kind of like the death bells for DC. And honestly, if you would have told me about even 4 or 5 months ago that AT&T would reset their sights on DC after cleaning it up, I wouldn't believe you. So, at this point in time, I have no idea what to expect from the future. We don't know if DC is going to close down completely, meaning that they'll just license out their stuff for movies, video games, TV shows, animated stuff, and just kind of end DC Comics after 80-something years, or if they're going to bring in new people that either know nothing about the comic book industry and just, do that whole rumor that was flying around that they wanted to make more, movie-friendly stuff. Everybody's freaking out on Twitter. Everybody's taking a side. I don't know where to go, honestly. I don't really believe that the Wonder Woman cover with chubby Wonder Woman is the reason that this all happened. I'm one of those people that sees stuff all over the place, and I believe this has been building for a long time. This has been building for years. And AT&T was the last one to just kind of be like, all right, Warner Media, you need to do something about this. This person's gone, this department's closed, this book's canceled, all this stuff is gone. And what amazes me is we are like 2 or 3 weeks away from the DC Fandom event, and now we don't even know what's going to happen to Jim Lee. It still says he's the creative officer of DC, but nobody knows if he's going to stay the publisher, and they're going to replace him. I mean, this is insane. And the reason why this is so bad, I've already said this, but if Disney sees that AT&T was able to cut cost from a bleeding wound, which DC Comics has been, not as bad as Marvel Comics, like bleeding out money for Disney, but just think about this. Disney watches AT&T close DC Comics, and they're like, well, you know, the book sales aren't quite where we're at, so let's meet with the editorial staff, and let's give them a shot. We'll give them a year. If you can't get your numbers up at this point and actually sell books, you're done. We're going to close you. You don't need to worry about your Marvel property. It's fine. It's fine in the mouse's control. Everything's going to be fine. But the comic books are done. They're not selling. The digital stuff isn't working. These stories that you're doing, it's not paying off. So, you know, we're just going to cut you loose like AT&T did to DC Comics. Thank you so much for all the memories. I grew up, you know, reading your books, and now people can see you in the movies and video games, and that's where the new medium is. We don't need comics anymore. It's dead. So, yeah, they could easily do that. And Disney is more cutthroat than AT&T is. They really are. Warner, I can tell you stories about Warner, but Disney is the scary one. And I honestly believe the two of them cannot exist without the other. They never have. There was one point in time where that could have happened in the 90s, but both of them are not in the best shape. So if one of them goes, it's not long before the other one is gone. That's just fact. It's terrifying, but there's not much you can do about it. I mean, these corporations own their soul, you know? But the timing of all this is terrible. So yeah, the whole Warner Brothers Games thing came out much better, you know? Oh, wait, we got the other channel set up. We had the executive person from WB Games, who I believe is going to be at the DC Fandom event still. I'm not sure. But he tweeted out something and released some statements that, yeah, everything is going really well, and we aren't really selling. We have no reason to do that. But yeah, Hollywood Reporter, everybody's reporting on this. Nobody has any idea what is happening. But DC Comics, one of the oldest comic book companies in history, has hit major layoffs. Both good people and bad people lost their jobs immediately today. They were gloating on Twitter about the Wonder Woman thing. They were attacking fans last night. And I kid you not, 14 hours later, they're all gone. No one knows what's happening. Hollywood Reporter doesn't know what's going on. But Bob Harris, or Harras, or whatever you call him, the dude has been at DC for years. At least 20-something years. Responsible for so many good things. Just gone. He was one of the good ones. This was one of the guys who was around for DC Rebirth. He was around here for pre-Flashpoint. I think he was still around during Hush and when Jim Lee came on. This was a very, very important figure in comic books. And Warner Media said, nah, bye. You're gone. I mean, I can understand. Get rid of the troublemakers, right? But the people that are the heart of your company that you just get rid of, that's a bad idea. That's pluck the weeds. Get rid of the weeds. Get rid of the troublemakers. Get rid of the people that are losing DC money, but do not get rid of the people that are the lifeblood of your company, because it can't survive. It's the people that make the company. This is madness. This is absolutely insane. The DC Fandom event is so soon, guys. So soon. This is not going to go over well. At all. At all. They're all gone. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to lie. When I heard about this and I heard a lot of those like woke weirdos were going to be fired, I applauded. I did. I'm no shame. Those people are troublemakers. They're creeps. They're always attacking consumers. And it just, good riddance, right? But then you hear that it goes deeper than that, and they're literally not just plucking the weeds, but they're getting rid of part of the brain of DC Comics. They're limiting Jim Lee's abilities inside of his own company. This is where you start to have like your spider sense tingle and like, whoa, hold up, what's going on? And this is why the industry is paying so much attention to this, because this is terrible. And Warner Media is making cuts in other things too, but DC is the first one on the chopping block right now. And no one knows how they're going to work out with this. But I mean, I knew something weird was off. A few days ago, if you guys are on the DC Universe app, which by the way is probably, they're going to kill the DC Universe app. They already got rid of the, what do you call it? The annual pay. You pay for a whole year. They scrubbed that back in July. I got a notice because I had DC every, I forget what it was, once a year. And so they switched me to another tier, which I don't think I'm going to keep the DC Universe app. I can't afford for them to be pulling. I think it's like, what was it, $20 a month or something for the package I was on or something. I don't know. I'm not going to keep it, especially if everything ends up at HBO Max. But anyway, beyond the point. So if you look at some of the shows that were exclusive to the DC Universe app, and this was a few days ago, nobody thought about this at all. I knew something was up because I'm crazy. I see conspiracies everywhere. I've got like my my board here with different pegs and lines, all leading back to Dan Didio. I'm kidding, mostly. But anyway, they changed the name of Titans to DC's Titans. They changed Harley Quinn to DC's Harley Quinn. Now, why are they doing that? They're doing that for a branding thing so you know that it's DC. Before, they didn't need to add the DC to it because you knew, oh yeah, Harley Quinn is on the DC Universe app. But Harley Quinn's going to Netflix, supposedly. Harley Quinn is on HBO Max. Titans Season 3, supposedly, is going to debut on HBO Max. All these DC properties are heading to HBO Max, so they've been rebranded to make that appropriate. But that also leaves kind of a vacuum on the DC Universe app. So where does it go from here? Well, it goes bye-bye. And the DC Universe app wasn't really doing the best anyway, but it had a strong connection to DC Comics. You see where I'm going with this? And yeah, I honestly thought that Warner Brothers Games was toast, or at least EA was going to get it. Last I heard, EA was the biggest one that was going to gobble up Warner Brothers. And then either that executive guy he's blowing smoke, and he's just trying to take the focus away from stuff, and he's telling AT&T, hang on, we got the DC Fandom event. We're going to announce Batman. Look here. A few days later, they announced the Suicide Squad on Twitter. You don't think they did that just because they were building hype, right? Nah, I don't think so. I think the reason why they announced the Suicide Squad stuff was to take the heat off Warner Media that was on them and put it somewhere else. Unfortunately, the heat went over to DC Comics, which has been doing meh for a while. Marvel and DC Comics, like the comics branch, not the properties, have not been doing well. They've been just above water, so to speak. They're not treading water, but they're not like doing well. Not how they used to be. Batman books don't even sell 100,000 copies anymore. Batman books are down to the 80. I think it's like 86,000 copies or less. When this was for at least, even 5 years ago, a Batman book would sell 200,000 to 150,000 copies. And even that was dangerous. Then it went from 200,000, 180,000, 175,000. And then it kept going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower until we got to the 80,000. And then sometimes Marvel would get a book that would hit 100K, mostly a Spider-Man or a Hulk book, and then it'd go back down to 75. I mean, these are not good numbers. These are very, very bad. And yeah, the pandemic definitely hurt stuff, but you have to remember there was digital sales for this. So this just comes out of nowhere. I mean, I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting to play my Ninja game tonight, but no, I got to report on all this crap. It's like, I really don't want to. I mean, you could say what you will about DC, but I'm a firm believer that DC is balanced. DC has crazy people, DC has sane people, and their books kind of reflect that. Marvel's editorial department for about 4 or 5 years had a lot of loonies within that, which cranked out a lot of strange books. Not going to lie. Strange prose. But they did some weed pulling, and things got a little bit better for them, and unfortunately, the weeds that got pulled for Marvel, Dan Didio was like, hey, why don't you take a job over here? No, Dan, this is your fault. So Dan's damage still continues, even though he's gone. That's my, crazy theory. Because a lot of the hires that Dan brought in, they're still at DC. I don't know if they survived the chopping block currently. I don't really follow them on Twitter. I have them all blocked because they're insane. But, I don't know, guys. This is not good. This is not good. When you have the Hollywood Reporter and you've got Forbes and you got all these other people talking about, is DC Comics doomed? I can understand, if you have like a comic book place like Cosmic or what are they called, Bleeding Cool or some of these other things doing these titles, DC Comics is doomed. Then you can kind of be like, well, this is mostly a rumor. No, you got Hollywood Reporter, you got Forbes, you got big trades talking about DC Comics in a way that you don't want to see DC Comics being talked about. In my entire career of YouTube, and even before when I was a game journalist, you do not want a headline like this. This is not good. This is not good for comics. It's not good for comics fans. It's not good for DC and its employees. This is very, very bad. And, I mean, like I said, I can't really see a silver lining for this. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but, I mean, it just does not look good at all. And I know I'm a pessimist, but still, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I know. Didio. Dan still does stuff. We need to create a flashpoint to stop. I mean, here's the problem. You know that old saying, if you give somebody an inch, they take a mile? Like, with the people that we brought in that are not us personally, because I never would have hired these people personally. They're not comic book fans. They were activists. They were insane. But when you gave them a little bit of cheese or a crumb, then they would start to take more of the cheese, and then they would make more demands, and then they would get people on Twitter to follow them, and then they would get like this bigger hate mob army, and then you just go after everybody, and if you didn't do what they said, then you're an ist and you're a phobe, and it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating to the point where then they started to witch hunt people and get them fired and created whisper networks and all this other stuff. I mean, this is what the comic book industry has turned into in 5 years. I mean, that's insane. And it's not like, oh, this is just, a crazy theory. This stuff really happened. When they go and they dismiss, oh, there's no network, but then you have places like WikiLeaks and you got all these forum sites where these people are, meeting up and getting people fired they don't like or they don't agree with, or who, prevented them from doing this in this comic book, or harassed them when they were at their house, or prevented them from going to a convention. I mean, it's kind of like you have a part of comics that are ruled by like organized crime or something, like mob families. This shouldn't be comic books. These are fictional characters that people like, and you have one group of people, a very small group, very loud group, that were able to take over most of the comic book industry. And half of them don't even like comic books. If they did, this is my argument for a lot of woke people. If they really did like comics and they bought them, other than just buying a few comics and posing on their Twitter like, see, fool, look, I read comics. No, you just went out to the comic book store, you're local, you bought a couple, you took a picture, big deal. Where's your collection? Where's your bookcase? Where is, where's your pull list? What They don't do that. They jump from one hobby to the next, they ruin it, and then they, either watch the ship go down and go somewhere else, like anime or manga or action figures now, believe it or not. Action figures are going through similar things that comic books went through 4 or 5 years ago, like when they started hiring these people. So, I mean, I'm I'm just letting it out there, but I guarantee you're going to see either a fat Transformer or a fat Power Ranger as an action figure in 2 years from now. And if you say anything about it, then you're body shaming a Power Ranger. I kid you not. I swear, I will bet you that's going to happen. And if you are not on board with a fat Power Ranger and you don't buy it, then there's a problem with you. It doesn't matter if you don't think it's cool. Why are you body shaming them? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of stuff that comic books happened. All over Twitter, all over social media. It wasn't, hey, I like this about the comic, let's talk about this. It's like, oh, you don't like this comic because you don't like fat people, or you don't like gay people, or you don't... It just kept building and building and building and building. And finally, a corporation was like, enough! Enough! Okay? You're fired. I don't care if you're connected to it or not. You're fired. You've been here a long time. Maybe you're old. You're fired. That department's fired. That book's canceled. We'll just pull the plug completely. Let's start over. You know what? Let's not start over. Let's just license out our stuff to movies and television, because that's where the money is. I mean, you guys, you're tired. You're old. Nobody reads papers anymore. The digital stuff isn't working. All it starts is a little conversation, and then boom, lights off. That's it. 80 years of history, poof. You get a documentary. Good job. You know? And right when the DC Fandom event is coming up, I'm just no, I'm not speechless. I have a lot of opinions, but I'm like, my mind is just like, you know? Forbes and Hollywood Reporter, none of these people have a right to really talk about the comic book industry. It's not their field. But the problem with those trades is they have, how do I put this? I wouldn't say they have a lot of pull, but when they report on something, it leans more true than false. Most of the time. Depends. Usually when something this massive happens and everybody's talking about it, there's a lot of truth to it. And yeah, some of these people, boohoo on Twitter, I got fired. So they're gone. They were troublemakers, don't care. But like I said, the lifeblood of the company, the people that actually mattered, the people that their blood, sweat, and tears and passion for 20 years or something, just, I don't even know if the person's going to get severance. They're just gone. That's insane. Bob was one of the good ones who would fight with Dan Dido on fans' behalf, or Didio, whatever you want to call that tool. He would challenge the co-publisher of DC Comics. He was one of the great ones behind the scenes that nobody knew about, except for maybe Jim Lee and Jeff Johns and a couple other people. Very quiet guy. Loves comics. Gone. Who do you have to challenge people now? What are they going to do? They're just going to hire a bunch of new people? Are you going to hire good people, or are you just going to hire crazy people? Because, I would not use Twitter to hire people. Not right now. Stay off Twitter. Stay off Facebook. Do it the old-fashioned way. Put, an ad, or, I don't know. I could think of some good people at Boom Studios that would work really well at DC right now. A couple people I really like who work at Power Rangers. I know I bring up Power Rangers, but I have a partnership with, had a partnership with Saban. And I do like the Hasbro people, but Boom Studios, a lot of those guys that are working on the Power Ranger books, yeah, I could see them doing like Green Lantern or Batman or Flash or Superman or something like that. I think they understand characters and arcs and knowing how to build up hype without like sinking your whole ship or ruining a franchise. Sometimes like just doing things for the sake of drama and, ooh, look at this, look at what we did, we killed Alfred. That's not really enough to sell books, It is for like maybe a few issues, but then people get mad and they're like, nope, I'm dropping this. And you can't withstand the vacuum of people leaving. When the New 52 happened, DC lost not a portion of their audience, like Didio always used to be like, well, we didn't take that big a hit. Oh, yeah, you did. You had people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 20s that said, sayonara, we went to Marvel or manga or whatever. And they never quite filled in that wound. They just kind of like would patch it up with tape a little bit. It'd still be bleeding, but they didn't bleed out. You know what I mean? It's like, they got stabbed, and they got some stuff oozing, and they just keep putting the duct tape on it so it doesn't quite heal, but it's not, you're not really going to bleed out. There's a way you can survive, kind of, sort of. So that's kind of what DC was doing in the New 52. And then they had to find a way of cauterizing the wound, and they did DC Rebirth. And yeah, I'll admit, DC Rebirth brought me back. I stayed, I had a pull list, I talked to a lot of people word of mouth. I got thousands of people to come back. I talked about them in my videos, on my streams. I talked to industry people. I talked to people that had been done with comic books, because I had a passion for DC again. It was great. And then DC Rebirth died, and yeah, I kind of stopped talking about it because it didn't interest me anymore. I didn't hate it. I mean, I didn't like what Tom King was doing, obviously, but I didn't really want to go out of my way to help support something I didn't really care for reading anymore. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I could have been part of the problem as a consumer. I just kind of like saw people fighting on Twitter all the time at Marvel and DC, and I'm just like, I'm done. This is not really worth it. I'll report the news, but I'm not reading these books anymore, and I'm not supporting these people. I don't want to. So, yeah, maybe guys my age were responsible too for DC being in dire straits, but at the same time, I don't believe that you should reward failure. That you should go out of your way like, yes, I love this, and I don't like the direction of these books, and I don't like what they're doing with my character, but I don't want the entire thing to die, so I'm just going to throw the money anyway. And I think that's the wrong idea to have, too. So you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't. And I don't really know how you could meet in the middle and be like, I don't know, I guess I was buying a lot of DC books that were older. I really fell in love more with Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil's stuff the past, like, 3 or 4 years. R.I.P. Danny. But I wasn't really buying any new books at all. Tom King's run I just completely ignored. A buddy of mine let me borrow some graphic novels, like recapping a lot of the stuff he did, where he killed Alfred and all that other stuff, shot Nightwing in the face. The Nightwing books are just crazy. The Batgirl books are being canceled after the 50th issue, and I mean, there's some cool stuff happening with the Bat family again, but I mean, the damage has been done. I don't know. I don't see. I hope that they bring in people that know what they're doing, and they don't get more of the people that they just fired, because yeah, most of the new hires got the axe, but some really decent people that I respected. And I know other comic book fans would be like, whoa, this person was an editor back then? Wow, I didn't know that. Editors, they filter stuff. They help keep things on track. Some of them tell creators, no, you can't do that, or let's take this another approach. Let's do this. We could still do this idea, but what if we did this instead? Or I'd like to see this. There's not enough of this. Whereas you had a lot of the woke editors that got fired that were like, you know what? Make that person a whale. Just do it. It's going to be awesome. People are going to love it. No, people didn't love it. Yeah, totally you can do that cover instead of editing. Like, okay, you want to do this, but instead of maybe doing something that controversial, let's workshop a little bit and find some common ground. You know, we don't want to tick off our core audience and, you know, appease people who don't even buy our books. And, yeah. So Bob was a guy like that. Bob was a common sense guy. All these other people, not common sense. There was one dude who was on Twitter. I don't know the name of the DC guy, but there were a couple of them that were bragging about having the lowest sales for one of their DC books they've ever edited. Like, you could Google it, and they were proud of that. And this was one of those clowns on Twitter. That's not something to be proud of. That you alienated so much of the core DC fandom that were pull listers, were people that... How many of you guys remember when DC had a subscription service? I had a subscription service of DC Comics from 1995 until 2003. I would get new issues of Robin and Nightwing sent to my door every month. And I would also, with my lawnmower money... This is how hardcore I was, yo. With my lawnmower money, I would not only rent some video games on the weekend, but I would also go to the comic book store and I'd pick up some like Jim Lee X-Men stuff and Spider-Man books and some Batman books, but I wasn't a big fan of Jean Paul as Batman. Some Superman stuff, but mostly I really enjoyed a lot of the X-Men books in the 90s. Those were really cool. Up until, I'm trying to think what year I stopped doing that. I was reading more of the Robin and Nightwing books by like 90, 98, 99, and then I just kind of kept to the whole subscription thing. And then they canceled the Robin books, and I was like devastated. But then they had the Red Robin stuff and things like that, you know. So I mean, there were guys like me, you know, guys and girls like me, loved comic books, and we were pull listers. We were people that supported comics because we loved comics. But along the way, something just happened where we just stopped loving comics. You could factor in the social media attacks by people that are drawing or writing the characters you like. That could factor in. The stories aren't interesting anymore. The characters are being either killed or maimed, or, you know, they're just not fun to read about. There's really not a lot of fun left in comic books, sadly. There's a lot of great things you can do with those characters and stories and settings and cities and adventures, but they're just not doing it. A lot of them would more like to alienate people and stand on a soapbox, you know, screaming, pick a side, pick a side. That's the wrong side. You're on the wrong side of history. Than they are actually showing love to these characters. I feel like when somebody draws something like Fat Wonder Woman, that's not showing respect to Wonder Woman. That's showing disrespect to the people that created Wonder Woman a certain way. But I could just talk about that stuff all the time. I don't necessarily believe that the Wonder Woman cover, the variant, by the way, it's just a variant, even though it got the most attention out of all the covers, was enough for AT&T to, you know, pull the plug on DC. I think that after Dan Didio was fired, that they have been leaning very hard on Jim Lee and DC as a whole, and the whole pandemic stuff has really hurt comic book sales tremendously. Digital sales are up, yeah, but digital sales have to factor into sales in store, and they haven't been because business has been closed so long. It's just, I don't know. Comic books have always been around, though, so I don't know what's going to happen. I think we've talked about this 6 months ago where I said graphic novels are never really going to ever go away, so DC Comics and Marvel, in a sense, could live on as, like, you know, making new graphic novels and stuff like that. But it's not the same as having, like, new stuff released, you know, every month, or sometimes bi-monthly, like twice a month. At one point, which Batman was doing. But personally, I really feel that social media did impact comic books in a negative way. I don't think it helped either side. The side that was for more normal aspects of comic books, and the side that wanted to shake up comic books to the point where they're unrecognizable. I think both are at fault, personally. And AT&T just wants to cut corners. I also don't know if this means Warner Brothers Games Montreal and WB Games in general is going to be safe completely, or if it's just kind of like, oh, get in line, get in shape, make us money, or you're going to go the way of DC Comics. I feel like evil thoughts happening right now. What if DC is kind of like the scapegoat or the example for all the different branches of Warner Media? The video games, the movies, the TV shows. You know, comic books is just one part of Warner Media. What if they're just like showing the other branches of the company, you need to get things straightened out, or what happened to DC, you're next, because we can just license your stuff. I don't know. That maybe that's a little crazy thinking, but I think it's possible. I don't trust corporations. I never have. I don't like when these massive companies merge and take over what used to be solo-owned businesses. There was a time where DC Comics, not during my lifetime, Warner's owned DC for a long time, but there was a time where DC was a sole proprietorship, you know? They were their own thing. They weren't owned by Warner. They were just a comic book company. Their own business. They would license out their stuff for TV, radio, and then I think in the 1970s, right around when Superman came out, the Richard Donner Superman, that's when Warner Brothers swooped in and bought up DC Comics. I might be wrong. I don't really remember because, one, I wasn't alive, and two, the Superman stuff doesn't really interest me all that much. But I'm pretty sure that in my lifetime, from the 80s onward, that Warner Brothers has always owned DC. And they weren't always bad. They just, I guess they lost sight of their goal or something. But when Batman and Robin happened, the film could fail and the comic book industry would be fine. In fact, it was doing great. The comics did better than the films. And nowadays, it's the opposite. The movies just destroy comic book companies. Both Marvel and DC can't hold a candle to the film profits of their characters. They just can't. The problem is, I really believe that you need good stories from the comics in order to make fantastic films going forward. And when those stories dry up, what are you going to do? I know, I'm a pessimist, but just hear me out. Just try to think of it from a common sense point of view, When the stories run out, what happens? Do you do the Hollywood approach, where Hollywood scripts sometimes can work, like Chris Nolan's stuff and Matt Reeves' take? Even though Matt Reeves' movie hasn't come out, you'll see a trailer in a couple weeks at the DC Fandom thing. I think you guys are going to be pretty wowed by his interpretation of Long Halloween. But, I mean, it's not a straight adaptation of it. It's Matt Reeves' version of Long Halloween and several other comic books to create his own story. But he used comics. He used comics as a jumping point. What if you don't have the comics for the jumping point anymore? There are some new story ideas that have come out the past 10, 15 years that I could see being taken and put into movies or, animation. And there's some that you never want to see again because they were terrible. But you have to release bad stuff in order to get good stuff. And if you just cut it off completely, then where do you go? You use the graphic novels as, fuel for stuff? I think part of the reason why a lot of these MCU and DC films were successful over the years is the narrative that they had. And just as not a hardcore Marvel Comics fan, I was surprised by a lot of the stuff that they pulled from 70s and 80s Marvel Comics that weren't necessarily very successful arcs for them, but yet they translated so well on film. If you got rid of making new comic books and you just went to graphic novels and adapted that for film or games or whatever, eventually I think people would be more used to it, because with all the stories that release in comics a year, did you know you could go through at least 3 or 4 arcs in 1 year? For your, Batman stories. Usually about 4 issues would cover a murder mystery or something like that, and then they'd go on to a new arc. And, it would just keep going and going. So movie and film people can easily borrow from different stories because you have a vast array of arcs to choose from. Whereas if you do a graphic novel takes some time. You release maybe one every, I don't know, I think graphic novels, they come out every 3 to 6 months. But you would just be using that graphic novel. You don't really have the ability to hide a lot of these stories anymore. And Marvel picked some real gems for Captain America's movies and Iron Man. These are all old stuff that only really hardcore comic nerds would know. All the stuff that was involved with the different comics that people borrowed for the MCU films. Whereas the general public who tends to buy graphic novels, if you made a new Batman movie based on, DC's latest graphic novel, chances are it would be fresh in the public's mind more than just being able to pull from a rich variety of storytelling. So I could see that being a problem that could affect movies down the line as well. But people don't think like me. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, the pessimist thing is just me being a New Yorker, living in a strange world. But I always see dark and gray before I see any bright lights. Amber's that bright aspect of my personality. Without her around, this is what you get. It's the dark recesses of my mind and all the freaky stuff I think about. And try to be like, whoa, you know? Iron Man 3 wasn't the best, yeah. Suicide Squad movie, so bad. Yeah, Suicide Squad was not from any particular comic book. It was kind of, how do I put this? The Suicide Squad, the original movie, now that it's, Ayer's thing is done, he is a fan of the Suicide Squad, but he didn't pick, how do I put this? You know how Nolan used like 3 or 4 comic arcs to create Batman Begins and The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises? And it was a combination of all these different points of telling the story for these different characters, whether from a point of view of Batman or Bane or whatever. They had materials that they could help flesh out their own story and their unique approach to it. Suicide Squad was a dude who loved the Suicide Squad growing up. He picked a lot of the favorites from the 80s and 90s, but he didn't follow a particular story beat. He just kind of, let's get a Hollywood writer in here. I want to do this and this and this with these characters, and it's going to work out great. No. Whereas James Gunn, say what you will about James Gunn, but the guy's a comic nerd, okay? He took stories that you would never think of from the 70s and 80s for Guardians of the Galaxy, and he made them work with characters that were not even in those books. He took popular characters and he took stories from the 70s and 80s Marvel Comics with the Guardians of the Galaxy, changed it up a little bit, and just recreated something special. He's doing the same thing with the new Suicide Squad movie. And personally, yeah, I think James Gunn is a creep. I think that he's a Hollywood creeper. But I respect his vision and his admiration of the source material. And say what you will about the guy, myself included, he knows his Suicide Squad. Just some of the comics that he was spouting off in one of his Twitter rants, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago, those were actual Suicide Squad storylines that were good. So, people saying that Ayer's Suicide Squad, his cut, if it ever gets made, would be better than James Gunn's version of Suicide Squad, I'm going to say, nah. There might have been some stuff that was very good in Suicide Squad and could have been, but it was a Hollywood recreation of the Suicide Squad. It had no footing in comics at all. It was just wild ideas thrown together, no plan, some connection to Snyder's stuff, but that's it. And I don't mean to dump on Ayer. I think Ayer's a great director. But the movie just didn't make sense. And when Warner came in and colored on his coloring book and didn't follow some of the lines that Ayer was doing when they did the reshoots, they made it worse. But it's possible that the format of the movie was already bad to begin with. We won't know unless an Ayer cut is ever released, and I don't know if it will be. But James Gunn, just like the magic that he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, using characters' stories that were not necessarily those character stories for their, movie or comic, he made it work. Twice. So, I have faith in Mr. Creepy that he can actually make a really good Suicide Squad movie that comic fans, not necessarily general audience, will really like. But, I think it's going to be pretty good. And I was a skeptic as soon as he was brought on, but I always respect people that know. Well, I respect their craft and their abilities. I don't respect the people if they do stuff that's kind of crazy, but I don't go out of my way to cancel them either, unless they're literally hurting people, and it gets crazy from there. But Ayer is a fan of the Suicide Squad comics. He didn't really necessarily do a good job with his fandom. I never understood why he chose not to do a lot of really key Suicide Squad storylines that actually would have worked in Zack Snyder's universe. I don't know why he didn't. Considering how big of a fan he is of the source material, it just bothers me a little bit. But I know directors have to be creative and they got to do their own stuff. But we've been over this before. The reason why Batman the Animated Series was so successful is because they borrowed ideas from the 70s and 80s Batman books. These were things that were written by Denny O'Neil, art by Neil Adams, and so many popular DC writers that were doing a lot of crime-related storytelling, like organized crime and Batman murder mysteries, and there was a lot of puzzle and mystery solving in the animated series, was there not? I challenge you to open up like a 1970s Batman book and see the comparisons between that style of narrative and action and character development, and not just be like, whoa, this inspired the animated series. Because it did. Paul Deeney went on the record and said, yeah, Timmy and I, we loved so-and-so's work. You go and you Google that person's name, Bronze Age Batman comics, 1970s, early 80s. Most of the writers who did the animated series, all inspired from 1970s, 1980s Batman comics. I kid you not. Some of their favorite storylines that were in the comics, and some ones that I hate that were in the comics, like the dude who was invisible and had like this invisible costume, and then Batman was riding on top of a car where he looked like he was flying like Superman. One of my least favorite episodes of the animated series. It was ripped right from 1970s Batman books. Ra's al Ghul, 1970s. Clayface, 1970s Batman books. Some of the more weirder stuff, like that werewolf stuff, 1970s comics. All of it. All the animated series, the really good animated stuff. The Robin's Reckoning, the Mr. Freeze stuff, all of it. 1970s, 1980s, early 90s, maybe, like with Bane and some of the Mr. Freeze stuff. Now, that isn't to say people can't be completely creative, because Mr. Freeze was a terrible character in DC Comics. You can't change my mind on that. Paul Deeney, for whatever reason, really liked Mr. Freeze and decided, hey, okay, I can make Mr. Freeze cool. Pun intended. And he did. Added some psychological aspects to him. Boom. Two-Face had some showings of psychological issues in the comics, but it was never really addressed. Except Frank Miller kind of did, with Two-Face appearing in one of the Dark Knight Returns books as being completely insane after all his scars were healed, but emotionally he went cuckoo bird. He still saw the scars everywhere, even though his face was perfect. So some writers did take some of those psychological cues and implemented them, but Deeney was kind of king when it came to that. He still is. He's a fantastic writer. So it is possible that a very talented individual can make something new. My argument is there's not really that many talented individuals that can take something that already exists and then make it better. Not that I've seen in 5 years anyway. Tom King ruined a lot of Batman stories, and the only reason that people are going to remember him is because they hate him. They hate him for shooting Nightwing. They hate him for snapping Alfred's neck and killing off so many Batman villains. That's not a way to gain intimacy or an iconic viewpoint on your career when you're worm food or retired. I wouldn't want to be known for killing a fan favorite character. That's not something that I would want people to remember. I'd want them to remember a cool story arc that I did. But most people, when they think of Tom King, they can only think of the negative. That's not a good thing. And I've sat down with a lot of comic book fans that can, argue my point. Whereas when you think Chuck Dixon, what do you think? You think Nightwing books. You think Robin. You think Bane. Jean Paul Valley. There's some negatives. But you can talk about really good story arcs and some of your favorite issues and some of the things that Nightwing and Robin did, because Chuck Dixon wrote Robin and Nightwing books for 10 years. Almost, I think. Yeah, it was close to 10 years. But with Tom King, I mean, personally with me, I can only remember the negative things that he did and that he gloated about killing Alfred and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Morrison's run, but I like some things from Morrison. But I don't really remember him in a negative way. It's just kind of like, well, Morrison happened, and I don't hate it. We got Professor Pig and Flamingo and some other cool characters. And his Batman and Robin stuff was interesting. I like the dynamic between Damian and Batman, or Dick Grayson, but, I can't really think of an aspect that I really hated about Morrison. But, yeah, Tom King, it's like, just saying that name makes me angry. Yeah, guys, don't put any personal information in the chat. For your safety, my safety, all that other stuff. Streamers should not know things about people's ages, where they live, things like that, because that could come and bite us in court if we ever got sued by the FTC or something like that because of COPPA. So just, if you have a favorite creator, the age thing is just not something that you should do, because you don't want to put people in hot water. Because if we're aware of the audience age, then our channels can be shut down. Anybody. PewDiePie, the dude who plays the bass guitar, slap, like the bass player. Jack Black, any of those people. Now, if you want to go do that to Brie Larson and tell her how old you are, you have my blessing. Go for it. Go right now. If she's streaming, go. I'm 12. Oh, minors. I kid. I don't want anybody's channel to be shut down, with the exception of maybe. I'm not getting into this. Bad K-Wing. But yeah, if you really love your creators, don't do that to them, because that'll create more harm than good. And less government in our business is the best kind of government, personally. Yep, Jude Winnick. I agree. Why didn't Paul Deeney write Arkham Knight? You guys haven't heard this story at all? Paul Deeney's not with DC anymore. He hasn't been. He's over at Marvel, guys. Marvel Television. Deeney kept going and going and going. After Arkham City, he went to Marvel. That's why he wasn't around to write the DLC for Harley Quinn's Revenge. In his mind, according to his convention stuff, Arkham City ended with Joker's death. There was no DLC. They couldn't get Deeney to write the DLC. He was too busy. He was working on, let's see, what shows was he doing in 2011, 2012 over at Marvel? Give me a minute to think, guys. Maybe you might know some of them. What were the popular shows? Was it Earth's Mightiest Heroes? The really good Avengers cartoon, was it 2011, 2012, or 2013? Help me out. Help the old man out. Help Uncle K-Wing. I need help. Was it Earth's Mightiest Heroes, or was there another show? Because I know Deeney worked on it. Yeah, Deeney's been gone for a while. He's worked on some DC projects since then, but he's not employed with DC or Warner Brothers anymore. It might have been Ultimate Spider-Man? Eep. Okay, so it was Earth's Mightiest and Ultimate. See, I don't like Ultimate Spider-Man because it killed Spectacular Spider-Man, and also it eventually killed Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Because reasons. Ultimate Spider-Man was not good for Marvel animation in a creative light because, no lie, Earth's Mightiest Heroes was killing it. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, if it could have gone on for a couple more years, people would still revere it as high as the original X-Men 90s show. Because what they did, again, the difference between a successful Marvel show and a Marvel show that they just produced crap like the later Avengers cartoon. Later Avengers cartoon was not based on comic book, really. It was based on a lot of MCU ideas and where they wanted to go with the MCU. Whereas Earth's Mightiest Heroes adapted comic book arcs of very popular, famous Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Ant-Man storylines and made it work with the characters that they showcased in that show. They had talented people on board like Paul Deeney, and I think there were some animated series alumni working on that show too. Whereas Ultimate Spider-Man was a hot mess, and the Avengers show that came after that was also a hot mess. Yeah. I was devastated when Earth's Mightiest Heroes was canceled because that was one of my favorite shows to watch. I thought it was fantastic. I know those guys went on to do something else. Were they... No. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but were any of the people that did Earth's Mightiest Heroes, did they work on Young Justice? Or is that like way out in left field? I wish I knew, because I'm, drawing a blank. Was it really? Yeah, the new Avengers stuff is trash. It was a fantastic show. I love the first season was based on the first Avengers comic from the 60s. You got it, Garrett. That's correct. Review Joker War. Joker War is not very good. I really don't want to. A friend has been keeping me up to speed about Joker War, and it depresses me. I mean, Barbara Gordon is... there's going to be some good coming out of it. Barbara Gordon is going to become Oracle again, starting this fall. I thought we talked about this. Maybe we were talking about this on a Ghost of Tsushima stream, but Joker switched off her back, like the chip in her back, so now she can't walk anymore, which is going to lead to Cassie becoming Batgirl again, in canon. Spoiler is going to work with the Bat family again. Tim the Duck is still gone, off somewhere doing crazy shenanigans. Tim is still a duck that hasn't been rectified. Spoiler's coming back, and she's going to have a Bat logo on her chest. There's going to be more stuff with the Bat family happening. Nightwing is going to be working a lot with the new Bat family this fall after Joker War. But Batgirl is ending as Barbara Gordon since being reinstated in 2011. So she lasted from 2011 till 2020 as Batgirl again, which actually... No? Yeah! I'm not very good with math, but I think Babs may have lasted longer this time than she did in the Silver Age. 1966 and... no. Maybe. She did have her own comic book. No, she didn't have her own comic book. No, wait. Yes, she did. Sort of. She had a team-up book with Robin in the 70s. When she was a senator, or he was a senator. I don't know. It was goofy. What year did Babs get paralyzed? What year was The Killing Joke? Was it 88? No, 88 was Death in the Family. 87? Was it 87 or 86? Killing Joke. Alan Moore. Why do I want to say it's 88? 87. Because they mentioned Barbara being paralyzed in... They mentioned her being paralyzed in Death in the Family. And that was 88. Because Tim became Robin in 89. Technically. Which led to the Robin Reborn miniseries. I want to say Killing Joke was like, yeah, 88. 88 or 87. Death in the Family was 89? No. Lonely Place of Dying was 89. Death in the Family was 88. I know that. Wait. Lonely Place of Dying and... For reals? They did both in 89? Whoa. December 1988 until January 1989. 4-part storyline. So we're both right. It started in 88. It ended January 89. Lonely Place of Dying was also 89. So then Killing Joke was 88. So she was Batgirl from 1966 until Killing Joke. Yeah, I was right. 88. And then the December of 1988 is when Death in the Family started. Lonely Place of Dying was sometime in 89. Robin Reborn was end of 89, start of 1990. And that was Robin's first real miniseries. Yeah. Am I ready for the Court of Owls game? Yeah, more or less. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, guys, I mean, what's happening with DC Comics, I mean, it kind of, I don't know. It didn't necessarily rip my joy out of the upcoming DC games, because there's going to be a couple cool announcements. Ed Boon's going to be there. Warner Brothers Games. Head Honcho is going to be there. Which means they might announce that Lego multiverse game. Lego Infinite Crisis thing that they teased in Lego DC Supervillains. Ed Boon's probably going to announce Injustice 3. WB Games Montreal is in fact attending. It's not just WB Games as a whole. There's the WB Games guy. There's Ed Boon. I believe there's somebody there from Traveler's Tales. I think. I'd have to look at the list again, but I'm pretty sure. So you could get announcements for Injustice 3 from Ed Boon. All he has to do is tease it. All he just has to say is Injustice 3 is in development. Boom! Hype across the internet. People speculating back and forth about what it's going to be. WB Games Montreal guy gets on and says, Batman Court of Owls is real. Or Gotham Knights happening 2021. November or something. Suicide Squad game coming December 2020. Or January 2021. Or who knows? You know, you already know that one's happening, but I expect at least, off topic a little bit, on my bingo card I have Batman Gotham Knight. I have Lego Batman Multiverse or Lego Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that's 2 on my bingo card. Injustice 3. Something DC mobile game. More details on the Suicide Squad. That's a given. So that's 5 properties right there. And then another mobile or PC game for DC on something. I don't know. So I'm guessing like 6 video game announcements for console and mobile on my bingo card. Also on my bingo card, I have an announcement for a new Batman or Superman TV show, like cartoon. 2 new Batman movie announcements that are not Bruce Timm. It's like weird shadow dragon thing, which is a murder mystery, and The Long Halloween. So 2 different Batman projects is what I'm expecting. And more information about the Titan show for season 3, like what storyline Jeff Johns is going to do. Bruce Wayne appearing as a character in Batwoman season 2. Not just as Hush, but like literally coming back. And Flashpoint with Keaton. It would be interesting, now that I'm thinking about this, just spitballing randomly, because that's what I do on these podcasts. What if, not only are they celebrating the Batman Forever 25th anniversary with Val Kilmer, but what if one of those supposed Batman movies that's in development, Val Kilmer ends up being the voice for one of those Batmen? I think that'd be kind of cool. I'd like to see Val Kilmer do some more stuff, because I have a lot more respect for him than I do Ruby Rose. Because more light after Schumacher died came out about what happened between him and Val Kilmer. And it really sounds like Schumacher did Val dirty. And it always, maybe some of that, prima donna-ness that Val did on the set of Batman Forever led to him being removed from Batman and Robin, but we don't really know anymore because more stuff has come out negatively about some of the stuff that Schumacher was doing with the Batman Forever stuff. So I would like to see Val Kilmer come back and do something Batman related, just so he can kind of ease his conscience a little bit, because it wasn't cool that Schumacher and company moved forward with Batman and Robin when Val was committed to filming another movie at the time. I really think that they could have waited, because by the time they finished filming Batman and Robin, they didn't meet their projected date that they were pressured by the studio to release on. It was supposed to come out in 96, not 97. And that's why Val couldn't do it, because he was filming 2 movies at the time. So the movie didn't come out until the summer of 97, because it was delayed or something. So in a sense, Val really could have worked with them and made the movie, and maybe it wouldn't have been quite as bad, because like I said before, George Clooney was the new kid on the block, so he basically let the writers and the other actors and the bigger celebrities kind of push him around. Whereas Val Kilmer in Batman Forever, he didn't let them do certain things because he didn't think it was true to the character. So he could have been a really good Batman if he was given the opportunity to do multiple pictures. And I think he has a decent Batman voice, so I would be cool with him being the voice of Batman in an animated film. I think that'd be kind of cool. And the last thing on my bingo card, like looking at my laptop here, is Batfleck. It just says Batfleck. I don't know what I'm expecting from it, but so yeah, 6 video game announcements, mobile console, animated Batman stuff, Titan stuff, Batfleck, Val Kilmer, and Keaton, and then just random stuff I don't care about. I'm hoping I win bingo. I am going to be streaming it, so I am going to be streaming it. I don't know how it's going to work, mind you, but I'm going to do my best to stream the DC Fandom event, and I'll have my bingo card ready. You guys should make a bingo card too. There is an Injustice spinoff. I don't know if it's a video game though. Yeah, cancer did mess him up a little bit, but it'd be cool to see him do something. I used to dump on Val Kilmer quite a bit back in the day. Plot twist: in Justice League movie, Barry was supposed to be Wally. That'd be so cool. No, we don't want Clooney back. Clooney, no. Clooney's said nothing about but bad things about Batman ever since. But anyway, I think I've finished my little thoughts. So now comes the part of the podcast where we open up the floor to you guys and gals. Whoa! What do you guys think is going on with DC Comics now? You've heard my rambling for about an hour. You agree? You disagree? What's going on? What do you see happening with DC Comics? You think they're going to close the publication down? You think they're going to restructure it to the point it's unrecognizable? That they're going to hire people that are going to do more harm than good? Or maybe some of the new blood that they're bringing in from Warner Media is actually going to help DC Comics go back to more Rebirth and pre-52 style storytelling and not so much New 52 or some of the crazy stuff we've seen with some of the books that have been canceled. Let's go. K-Wing has the same bingo list as me. Booyah! Bingo buddies. You agree? I agree with you. Okay. How do you feel about the new in-family interactive film? Pretty good. Tom King did get fired? No way! You're lying. Tom King is gone? I don't think so. Death and resurrection of DC Comics? I wish. Burn it down. What's going on with the Joker war exactly? Not interested in reading, but still fascinated with the situation. You agree with K-Wing? Honestly, with DC, I think they're going to shut it down and DC will go bye-bye. And we'll have... You won't have Marvel very long, Doodles, 98. If DC goes under, Marvel can't sustain itself by itself. It needs the competition of the... of DC Comics. Just like if Marvel went the way of the dodo, Warner Brothers... See, I need you guys to understand this mindset, okay? Competition is good for the industry, and DC and Marvel don't hate each other. They're both comic books that go... They're comic book publishers that go back 80 years, mostly. DC's a little bit older, but they both need each other to survive. They kind of feed off one another. That's why I like to use the comparison of like conjoined twins. How conjoined twins need different parts of their body to live. If any part of the body dies, both twins die. Maybe not right away. I know it's dark to think of it that way, but... and if you have a corporation that is able to come in and destroy, silence, remove, deconstruct... a company, mind you, that's not as big as Disney, and Disney hates losing money. And while DC Comics is bleeding, in a sense, they're not losing as much money as Marvel Comics' branch currently. And AT&T is not considering. AT&T just removed, with the help of Warner Media, so many important and non-important DC editorial, writers, artists, behind-the-scenes people. They gutted DC Comics today. And they are not losing as much money as Marvel Comics does to Disney. So don't think for a moment that if AT&T closes DC Comics, we'll say this year or next year, that Disney is not going to swing around and do the same thing to Marvel so they can save a buck. I kid you not. I will bet you. You need both of them for comics to continue the way it is. And with both of those giants gone, it won't be long before Boom Studios goes and all those other ones. You have to have both. They can't work without the other. That's... Even if you don't like DC or you don't like Marvel, you have to understand that both of them are needed to survive in their failing industry. Because it is a failing industry. Their licensed properties are booming. I agree. Their licensed properties from the comics, those characters are moneymakers. The comics themselves are not selling on either Marvel or DC. Not to what they were. Not to something that, you know, is putting them in dangerous territory. Quick question. What happened to Tim Drake? Tim Drake is a duck! A duck! That's what happened to Tim Drake. He is the Drake. He wears brown. He looks like a duck. He doesn't go quack, but he's a duck. Dan Didio and Bendis made your boy, Tim Drake, a duck. Ducks aren't cool. Darkwing Duck is cool. Tim Drake is no Darkwing Duck. And right now, in the Young Justice books, He is still a duck. He has not shown up in mainstream DC Comics yet as a duck. But he could. He could. He could. Can't wait to see the Batman trailer. Okay. What are comics going to be going? Comics would be going the way of the dodo. Dodo is an instinct bird. It's a bird that mostly is instinct. It's a phrase. You think Suicide Squad is in the Arkhamverse? No. Wait, what will happen to Batman and other DC characters if it goes bye-bye? Graphic novels, TVs, movies. I thought Tim Drake was a rapper. Wonder why they aren't saying selling as much. You know why, Blackwing. You know why. Tim Drake is Duckman. Dark Horse Comics is still doing amazingly well, and it's created by a former DC employee. Yes, it is. Those are great choices to the Emperor. I don't know what that means. Wait, Tim Drake is still a duck? Lol. Yeah. Didn't Tim Drake become Superman's sidekick and then died of a drug overdose? Will you stream 24 hours of DC fandom or only parts? Only parts, Blaze. Only parts. Hopefully Marvel will get shut down and Star Wars will go back to Dark Horse. Ooh! That's an edgy take. I don't want either one of them gone. Why is Tim a duck? Ask Bendis. What does this mean for DCU properties? Nothing. Licenses, fine. If there's a Flashpoint live-action film, would Affleck be a good Thomas Wayne? No. Dark Horse... Yeah. Yep. K-Wing, I thought you weren't streaming DC fandom. I am. I hate you, 2020. Me too. Duck. Luke has gone mad, lol. K-Wing, what if Monolith announces a DC game? I'd be on board. What's this rumor about the new Suicide Squad game? Well, I mean, it exists. It's not a rumor. It's confirmed. It's official. Rocksteady even told me it's real. They won't tell me anything else. Not if it's connected to the Arkham universe, which I highly doubt. If it's a new storyline. If you kill the Justice League in it, or if it's just a title. If you play as the Justice League against the Suicide Squad, or if you play as the Suicide Squad against the Justice League. Is the Justice League evil? We don't know. Is the Suicide Squad an actual superhero team that needs to take out the Justice League because the Justice League are corrupt? We don't know. What is the style of gameplay? Is it like the Arkham Origins multiplayer, or is it a action-adventure game like the Avengers? We don't know. All we have is an image. All we have is August 22nd and nothing else. I've spent most of my morning, because I was talking to Rocksteady publicly, telling people in DMs, I don't know. I even had to write, I know nothing. I can speculate until the cows come home, but they told me August 22nd, they're going to have some awesome stuff for you guys, probably a trailer, maybe a gameplay demonstration, I don't know. But they told me, expect cool things, you'll be happy, Rocksteady's back, booyah. So, just listen to that, and we'll see what happens. Yes, Tim Drake, Duckman. Everybody loves Duckman Returns. Tim Drake will be Robin again. Haha! We'll see when Bendis is gone. How do you feel about Young Justice 2019 besides Drake? Meh. Yes, Duckman. Affleck Batman sucks. Ooh, edgy. K-Wing, do you think Injustice 3 will be the final Injustice game? And have you seen the new Cyberpunk trailer? It's really good. Yes, I've seen the new Cyberpunk trailer. Looks pretty cool. Might play it. Would Injustice 3 be the finale of the franchise? Not if DC wants to keep making money. Do you like Batman War games? It was okay. Dark Horse is doing better than Injustice Year 2. Yeah, I would believe it. Drake could be Nickelodeon star. Marvel and DC should make a crossover. If they do that, they'll make big bucks. They won't. New costume is not that bad. At least they're trying something new. No, Zipstream. No, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. No. No. K-Wing, do you think superhero movies will continue to be popular since MCU is going woke and DCU is a mess right now? Depends on the storytelling. You have to remember, Kevin Feige was smart. Kevin Feige borrowed not really well-known comic book arcs that did well for Marvel Comics, and he made magic with them. Unfortunately, a lot of the Marvel storylines that have come out the past 15 years have been garbage. They didn't have the same lasting impact or respect with comic book fans. If those get adapted into the movies, then the MCU train is going to start hitting walls. So Feige needs to keep pulling from 1960s, 70s, and 80s Avengers stories and maybe changing up the team a little bit, which he could still do. There's at least probably 10 good storylines that they haven't done for the Avengers yet. And there's a few X-Men too. Like, they could easily do Avengers versus X-Men in like 6 years or something like that, after the X-Men make their MCU debut and have some time to grow a little bit in some future movies. Could totally see a Avengers versus X-Men storyline. That would work. And that would probably have just as big an impact as Captain America Civil War did. But if they try to adapt the storylines that keep getting books canceled, like the past 5-6 years, then the MCU will be in big trouble. Because you can tell any hardcore MCU fan that most of the reasons why those movies are so good is because the storytelling is fantastic. And the storytelling, Feige was a master at picking the right stories to, do his own spin on. And he can't do that with a lot of the current comic arcs for Marvel because they're trash. Just like DC would have a hard time using a lot of their storytelling the past 5-6 years. It's just, it's not very good. It's okay, but Shia LaBeouf is being cast as Iceman for the MCU? No, you're lying. No. How do you feel about Ahsoka Tano being on your stream? Hi, Ahsoka. DC needs a Flashpoint movie. Oof, that'd be complicated, but I agree. Marvel is more than just the Avengers. Correct. K-Wing, I think that the costume design of Drake isn't the worst. What it needs is a recolor and a new name. I mean, the costume looks cool. It just, the color scheme is terrible. Have you heard of his channel talks about comics? He's a comic store owner. You and him would sit down for hours talking about Batman. Probably. I don't know him personally, no. And I don't know his channel, but thanks for bringing him up. K-Wing, how do you... Okay, we already did them. Hopefully Pattinson doesn't sound like a pirate. I doubt it. I think he was just trolling. League of Assassins would make a cool movie, yeah. Do you think a new comic book industry could form from the ashes of the old? No. The reason why a new comic book industry would not work this day and age is what killed the old comic book industry. And while politics and social issues have always been in comic books, they have not been the center focal point of comic books. They've been an aspect of the books. Whereas the past 5 years, they've been the central focus of the books. And that has turned off readers. In droves. Not just like, one person gets annoyed and that person is a phobe and whatever. No, that person just didn't like the book because the book sucked. The person who they got to write the book, I kid you not, if you went on Twitter 4 or 5 years ago, you would see both DC and Marvel hired people that have never written a comic book before. They wrote some type of social justice book, or they marched in some parade, or they worked for some organization. 1 or 2 of them wrote a children's book, but none of them had ever wrote a Marvel or DC book, and they were put in charge of Green Lantern, of all kinds of different really key figures. There was no starting off point like, okay, we're going to bring you in DC, we like your style, we're going to have you write like this minimal character, and then we'll give you one of the big boys, big girls. No. Marvel and DC hired these people and gave them big franchises right off the bat. And 9 times out of 10, those people ruined those franchises and got the boot, went somewhere else, got praised on Twitter for doing something edgy, and those books never really recovered. Some of them got canceled. Some of those heroes that had solo books, they ended up getting team-up books, and that was it. So if a new comic book industry was to form, you would need to have talented people. You would need to focus on storytelling, character development, characters, cool arcs, interesting villains, action, mysteries, adventure, something that could actually compel your reader instead of making them think that you're standing on a soapbox saying one thing or the other. One thing is bad or one thing isn't bad. That can't be the focus of your book. And unfortunately, that's what the focus of a lot of Marvel comics used to be. Marvel's getting better, but you still have things like West Coast Avengers that got canceled and is slowly coming back to life even though it's not being sold. And it's kind of like a festering cancer that if that book is allowed to exist, then it can spread to more books, and it just poisons the whole batch. So you got to cut off the head of the poison snake and just, try to save the rest of the stuff. So if they could actually go back to the focus of Meow, Stop It Shadow, then they could make really cool comics again. But they don't want to. They want to wear their politics on their sleeves, and they paid for it. More or less. Facts don't care. Keyword talented. That's pretty rare these days. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be an optimist, okay? I still believe there are a lot of people that are very good at writing that deserved roles based on their merit. Like, there are a lot of talented sci-fi and fictional writers that would have done a great job at Marvel and DC 4 or 5 years ago that actually made some really compelling, cool stuff. And they were passed on by these weirdos on Twitter. That, to me, is a dying shame, because if I was in charge of DC or Marvel, I would make sure that I got people that knew what they were doing. Not people that were, just standing on soapboxes yelling at people and then incorporating that into their book, thinking that it's going to sell and it's going to get a message across. Got a message across, your book's canceled. Bye. But they don't do that. When they cancel the book, they're like, well, your book didn't work. Maybe it was the wrong character for you. So let's take your same ideas and let's put you on this book. Nope, that book got canceled. Okay. I don't think there's a problem with you. Your audience just isn't resonating with you. So let's give you another character, and then it just goes on and on. Whereas an editor with stones would be like, you're the problem. Nothing wrong with this character. You're out. Somebody else is in. But they don't do that because they don't want to hurt people's feelings, which I think is stupid. So to answer somebody's question on Twitter years ago, could you be an editor for DC? Not in this day and age, because I get fired because people would say I'm bullying people or like I'm targeting and getting rid of people. But I would only keep people on the books based on their merit, their skill, their talent, their dedication, their stories, their ideas, not their politics. I don't think that has any basis whatsoever. Not as a focal point. K-Wing shall lead them to graces. No, I'd have a heart attack. I did like Dan Slott. I don't follow his Twitter, but I know he did some cool stuff. Can you stop asking if Tara Strong is going to voice her? Guys. Okay, again. Suicide Squad came. Shadow, you pick a good time to stop meowing now. My conversation with Rocksteady had nothing to do with the Suicide Squad game. I honestly do not want to see any YouTubers, any comic book websites saying K-Wing has a scoop on Suicide Squad. I know nothing. And you can clip this. 6 months ago, I regret this. 6 months ago, I said Rocksteady is not working on a Suicide Squad game. So people need to stop talking about it because that's not their next project. I was wrong. They were working on the game. They are releasing the game. I know nothing about the game. I'm trying to learn about the game, but there's no information about it. There's speculation. There's rumors. There is some truth to every rumor, in a sense, but there's so much rumors going around that I don't have a solid footing of where to start. It's possible the name of the game is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, or Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, whatever you want to go by that webpage leak or something like that. But yeah, I dismissed the game. I got razzed by Rocksteady behind the scenes because they were like, so Luke, you said this game doesn't exist. Boom! So, yeah. I can be wrong. Whatevs. I didn't think it was real. Turned out to be real. So, there you go. I don't know what characters are going to be in it. I don't know what actors are going to be in it. I have no idea. The only thing that I've been, trying to be Mr. Detective for you guys has been the Batman Gotham Knights game. That's the only one that I have hardcore been hanging out on Reddits and forum sites and Arkham places, just kind of lurking, finding out things I can, talking to people that may or may not be attached to the project. That's the only thing that interests me. The whole Suicide Squad thing, the reveal was out of left field, was not counting on it, super excited, and I'm very interested in it because, for one, I dismissed it, and two, I know nothing about it. When I know nothing about something, that makes me more curious. That makes me more interested. If I know about stuff, I lose interest a little bit because it's kind of like, okay, I kind of figured out how this is going to go. Before the story even comes out, I know the plot. I already know the characters. I already know the bosses. I know nothing about the Suicide Squad. I don't know enough about the Suicide Squad books to know what kind of story we're going to see. Could be a new original idea. Could be an idea based on the books. But it makes sense that Suicide Squad is in mainstream right now because James Gunn is making a Suicide Squad movie. So, yeah, it totally makes sense to have a Suicide Squad game. I feel sheepish that I said, nah, I'm paying for it now, aren't I? I got Rocksteady razzing me. Plot twist, K-Wing. I wish. I wish I was voicing somebody. I only know people at Rocksteady that aren't in the development phase. They're like the team that handles behind the scenes stuff. I wish I knew the writer. I wish I knew some of the design people and things like that. But I've only ever met people that are involved with marketing and some other stuff. Some other stuff I can't say. Do you think management in DC Comics is ever going to change so there won't be so much bleep accepted and forced into please the people on Twitter? No, Sonic. Unfortunately, you're probably going to see the comic book industry fold. The way that you know it, you're going to see it collapse. Because they believe that they are champions. They revel in the fact that they turn people away and harm something that people love so much just so they can get their point across. If you think about it, that mindset is kind of toxic in a sense because they're destroying something and harming people just so they can make a point. That's not something that that's not something that Stan Lee did in the 60s or Danny O'Neill and all these other writers that carefully added stuff to their storytelling to make people think. They didn't force feed them something. They presented it in a way that was kind of like you could see it from all sides. You could see it from left, right, middle, and come up with your own decision, you know? A very good example of that is when Speedy was on... I don't think I can talk about narcotics too much because they'll probably get demonetized. But the famous thing where Speedy was an addict and Hal Jordan and Green Arrow represented the lefty mindset and Hal Jordan was super conservative righty. And then you had like some other people that represented the middle ground or the center viewpoint. And it was written so well that even though Roy was kind of seen as the bad guy for what he did, you felt sorry for him because, his life was crumbling and he became addicted to this stuff. And you could see how the other characters of the DC universe interacted with him and his struggle and stuff like that. But today, they do things like where they make business owners out to be the bad guys, not organized crime, not like just, all kinds of weird things that just like too much of what today is, but blown even more out of proportion, like to fictional standards. But then some of these crazies that read the comics, they view some of the very extreme aspects of what's happening in the world as norm. Like, this is normal. This is, this person's bad because this reason. No other reason. Just this. So I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go destroy this property, or I'm going to go shoot this person, or I'm going to go do that. And you can't have that kind of mindset in the comics anymore. So the fact that they have so many of these people that are villainizing so many aspects of day-to-day life and like only creating one narrative instead of like multiple narratives, that presents a problem. And that's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until literally you have people killing each other over comic books. I hate to say that's going to happen, but oh my God, you have no idea what could happen. Like down the road, a simple argument could turn into a shootout over a comic book character. We're not that far away from that, sadly. You know? Terrifying to think of, but we're not that far away. A lot of people can't agree to disagree anymore. They create little cults on both sides for or against something. I see it all the time. They don't even talk about it in the news, but there's been comic book stores that, you know, stand with a certain group that have been burned down and broken into. And one group praises, you know, the destruction of somebody's business. And another side is like, oh no, that person's business got hurt. When you have these type of narratives showing up and then these type of stories are being presented in the comics as like only a one-sided narrative, it's going to lead to something very dangerous. History has already shown that kind of stuff. You wish you could audition for Injustice 3? Well, you know. K-Wing, are you preparing to mess up your sleep schedule to stay up around 24 hours? No. No. Gosh, no, guys. Come on. I have been hitting up somebody who's working at the DC Fandom thing to find out what the times are for the game announcements and some of the animated things. I am not staying up 24 hours. I will die because I have a schedule. I can't do that. Come on. Cut me a break. I'm not that stupid. Right now, I don't have the schedule of what the times are, but I heard a media list is happening because no way traditional media is staying up for a lot of these announcements. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag for certain things, but I guarantee you some of the major announcements for video games and animated stuff is going to be happening at night or in the afternoon. I do not think it's going to be like at 3 or 4 in the morning. This is something that they're going to want to have a lot of eyeballs on all over the world. So it has to be a certain time of day that people in Canada, people in the US, California, New York, Australia, Europe can all watch at a time that is going to make sense for them, more or less. I don't think they're going to have earth-shattering video game and animated movie or movie announcements when they can't have as many eyeballs on as possible. Because this DC Fandom event is a combination of E3, DC Games, and San Diego Comic-Con. Are there going to be tons of crazy announcements? Yeah. Some of them might pop up in the middle of nowhere. I would say probably like at 3 or 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning, you'll get some crazy DC mobile game that nobody cares about and some kiddie cartoon or some comic book that no one cares about or some TV show. But the really meaty stuff would make sense to be airing anywhere between like 10 in the morning to like 9 at night. You know? But I could be wrong. You never know. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But that's what, you know, that's what the marketing peeps would probably say. Shout out from an Aussie. What up, Aussie? Australia? 6 p.m. PST would be a good time around the globe. Yeah, see, there you go. I know this is off topic, but I'm ready to start college for the first time. Any advice? I need some wisdom. Oof. I wish I could tell you I had amazing college experience. Meet people that have similar interests to you. Do the classes you really like and learn a lot from them. Do some self-study. I can't stress that enough. If a professor just outright hates you, don't try to change his mind about you because he's just going to, like, he's already formed an opinion about you. Or she. Just try to keep your head down, do your schoolwork, do your papers, live with whatever grade they give you. Hopefully it's not an F. I had professors that were out to get me day one, and I did challenge them, and I got an F. I had to drop the class, but a history professor did not like me, mainly because he was wrong about everything he was spouting about the revolution. And coming from a person who studied the Revolutionary War from the time he was knee-high to an adult, considering I lived in the area where there was so much rich information and places you could go to learn about the revolution that you couldn't learn in a book, because the battlefields were there and all the museums and all the other stuff and the old books that they didn't pay attention to anymore because it didn't fit modern standards. So, I was a hothead in college. I did have a really cool gaming group that I met up with. We played a lot of Smash Brothers on the N64, GoldenEye. We would watch a lot of 80s movies together, like action films, talk about comics. We had LAN parties. I would go to dorms to have LAN parties for Quake tourneys, Warcraft 3 stuff. So, I mean, yeah, find people attached to them that have similar interests than you. Maybe you're going to be going to school with somebody that you know. That's always fun. Meet up with them. Just don't bring attention to yourself in the wrong light, I would say, because there's people out there that you think aren't your enemy, and they'll stab you in the back. That's my advice. And enjoy yourself, but definitely do the self-study stuff, because never stop learning. Even when you're not in school, it's good to learn stuff. Like, I'm reading a bunch of feudal Japan books right now, while talking about comic books. Well, I mean, not right now, but I've got like ninja books and shinobi stuff and all this cool stuff that I ordered when I was working on the Ghost of Tsushima game. So I was enriching my mind while playing a video game. That's my advice. I'm only covering the games and the animated movies portions of the DC Fandom event. Yeah. Yes, college in real life is not Animal House. Yes. You'll probably never meet a person that cares about you. You never know. I got lucky. I struck out in high school and college when it came to dating. I went all the way to New York, and I was interested. Oh man, this is a dark story. I guess I can tell it. Amber's sleeping. But I thought I met a really cool girl in college, but maybe we kind of hit it off, but it wasn't meant to be because she worked. Can I talk about this? Would this be right? I mean, I told Amber this. I mean, we had 2 dates. I thought she was really cool. She worked at the restaurant on one of the towers. So we obviously didn't get to see where that went. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up. I don't know if she was Mrs. Right or not. I only knew her for like a week or two, maybe like week and a half, something like that. So yeah, I was I was in New York in college in 01. So, but before then, I'd struck out with stuff too. There was another girl at that same school, probably about 6 or 7 months after, that I really liked, and didn't pan out either. Not in a morbid way. She was kind of using me to get to my roommate. So I got friend-zoned hard by the other girl. And when I came back to Chicago on break, I met Amber. So she says. She says I met her when I was back. I transferred schools from the Albany area, and I went to a school near Chicago where I met Amber. And I had sworn off dating. And I met her. and she blew every girl out of the water I ever met. Like, every expectation I had for a girl, Amber set the bar so high that at one point I felt like I became a simp for her when we were dating. Like, I tried to do no wrong. I walked on eggshells. And the more I got to know her, the more relaxed I got. And I would say by the third date, I was acting more like myself and not like this crazy, like, oh my gosh, you're a goddess type thing. By the third or fourth date, I was normal again. I was very relaxed, very happy. But yeah, the first few dates, I was kind of weird. I was enthralled, so to speak. If there was a donate button back in the day and Amber had a stream, I probably would have given her a lot of money if I had it. If you're thinking about old school cultures. Yeah, I shouldn't have brought up that story. Sorry about that, guys. That was in poor taste. Because I don't even think about her anymore. I didn't know her that long. She was just somebody who went to school with me. I really remember the girl who used me to date my roommate, though. They got married, believe it or not. So, yeah, that was the girl I swore off dating too, because I remember. Okay, it was January of 2002, and we had been dating for about a month and a half, and she kept bringing up weird stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you her name. We'll just say her name was like Joan or something. And Joan had similar interests to me, like in history. She was a history major. She liked video games, sort of. Not the cutesy ones like Amber. Amber loved Kirby and Banjo-Kazooie and, just Amber's super girly girl. Anyway, this girl was kind of like a tomboy. I thought we were serious, but I never really saw the clues where she was bringing up other guys, because I thought that we were kind of like going steady after like a month or two. I even borrowed my roommate's car and I took her into the city. We went to New York once or twice, like from Albany. That was a long trip, I'll tell you that. Let's see, from the school that I went to all the way back to New York City we've been in the car probably like 6 hours, something like that, there and back. I don't even remember what we did there. I think, I met her parents. That's what. Anyway, so she brought me down to meet her parents, and I thought things are going great. And I've totally recovered from the weird thing where, prior to that. So I think, yeah, things are looking up. My college life is improving. My roommates aren't total jerks. I won the Quake tourney. Yeah, sweet. Won land Quake. Yeah. And she got really sick. There was a bad snowstorm in 2002, upstate New York, near Albany. And I was working in the kitchen, so I made her some soup. And the roads were completely covered in snow. It was very hard to get to the girls' dorm because that school was so old school. We didn't have mixed dormitories. So the guys' dorm was on one side of the campus, all the guys' dorms. The female dorms were on the other side of the campus. And there was no way, even from the kitchen, it took me walking in the snow at least probably 30 minutes to get to her dorm. And I had to trudge through this thick snowbank because, it was just, the sidewalk was completely covered. I just finished my shift at the kitchen I was working in. And I made her soup. I did. I made her soup and I brought some bread. And I walked all the way there and talked to her, hung out with her a little bit. And I thought things were going great. A few days after that, she asked to meet me like at my job. I was kind of like, okay, maybe she wants to say thank you for the soup. She basically told me, yeah, it's not working out. And I was just like, I didn't see any of the signs before because I was totally oblivious. And that was it. And I had just, like, not long ago, risked my health to bring her soup in a blizzard. Ah. Yeah. Yep. She was 19 and I was 18. No, wait, no. She was 21 and I was 19, 18. Because I met Amber at 19. Because it was still, if it was January of 2002, then I met her November, December, and she broke up with me in the middle of January. Yeah. So 2.5 months, something like that. But yeah, that's cold. That's cold. I don't know how I didn't get sick either. I guess it was the power of infatuation or something like that, because it was cold. And I was wearing just like my leather jacket, and I was going through the snow. But I did. There was actually a time where Amber and I almost called it quits because her parents wouldn't approve of it. It would have been 2004, right before we got engaged. 4 months before she said yes. And we had a disagreement about something. It was pouring rain, ice cold rain. And she got out of the car on campus where we were like at, and it was freezing rain. And I don't even remember what the argument was. I mean, obviously we got back together, but it looked like it was going to be the end. So I ran after her, and this is like an area of the Midwest that when the rain was coming down, it was like buckets, and you can't see. And I chased after her as best I could. I fell down a couple times. It was pouring rain, ice cold. I found her. She was so impressed that I was able to get to her in the pouring rain. And I lived up to that anime thing because I got sick after that. And she came to see me. So, but yeah, I don't remember, because her parents didn't approve or something like that. She was gonna break up with me, or she was thinking about it. And she got out of my car when it was pouring rain like that. And I went after her, got her. A couple days later, I get seriously ill. And then she came to visit me, and she brought me soup. And then I hated soup a little bit less. So. And then 4 months later, we got engaged. I can't even remember what the girl's name was, though. I mean, I'm pretty sure I told Amber that story. Except I might have shortened the amount of time we were dating. I don't know if she would care or not now. But you have to remember, when you're dating in college, there's really not a lot of opportunity that you can quote date, because you're doing a lot of college studying and hanging out with your friends and stuff like that. So while we were together for 2 months, we probably only dated for actually went on dates like maybe 4 or 5 times. We just kind of hung out on campus. And we mostly hung out with my roommate, who she would later marry. So, yeah. But anyway, everything's weird. Good luck to college. Have fun. Do your best. K-Wing, are you going to write a book on what? Doesn't bother me. Women don't want to be called that, and you should respect that. Called what? Okay, what's your Twitter? K-Wing Reviews. Cold, heavy rain, snow weather. Are you sure you don't live in Gotham? Gotham follows me wherever I go. It's raining outside right now. I'm not even lying. It's raining right now. Whatever state I move to, it rains more and more. It just does. your life story. K-Wing, what is your first book? Luke, what is your first book you read? The very first book that I ever read, on my own, would have been a Hardy Boys book when I was in second grade. I liked the Hardy Boys mystery books. And then by the time I was in 4th or 5th grade, I started reading the Lord of the Rings books by Tolkien. And then my grandfather gave me all his Revolutionary War books. So I read some stuff from... I read George Washington's biography. And I read stuff about Benjamin Franklin, Jefferson, probably by, and it wasn't a school thing. We were studying something about Vermont, like the Battle of Bennington or something like that. I don't remember. It was some type of Vermont battle, and on the side I was reading a book about Benjamin Franklin. But so kids didn't make fun of me. I had comic books in my book bag too. So even though I enjoyed reading a lot of history books, I also made sure when people were looking at me, I was reading a comic. So I had Ninja Turtles comics with me and Batman comics. I still got made fun of though, but I tried. I did my best in school. School sucked. I didn't like it. I liked the learning aspect, but I didn't like school. I never read Harry Potter. Nope. Been watching you guys since Lego Batman 2, and I've been wondering how you guys met and got together. The wait was worth it. Well, I mean, the story how I chased after Amber, you have to remember we were dating. We met in 2002, supposedly. I don't remember dating her until 2003, though. Which I could be wrong. I've been wrong about dates before. But Amber was... She said our first meeting was when I came back from college in New York. I'd flown down for spring break. And I went to visit my sister who was in a show choir. And they were getting ready to go on tour, and Amber was part of that group. And I do vaguely remember a cute blonde, leggy blonde, who was not necessarily friends with my sister, but she was in her group. And she was very shy. And I thought she was kind of cute, but I didn't actually go up and talk to her. But she counts that as our first meeting. My first meeting with Amber was... I was working as a teacher's aide in 2003. I was working at a private school. And I was on bathroom duty. And her father was the custodian of the school. And she was in the cafeteria playing the piano, which I didn't know at the time. And I was on bathroom duty. I was taking a little guy to use the facilities. And I completely forgot about my my job because I went off to flirt with a girl playing piano. And that was in 2003. That was January of 2003. Amber says we met in spring of 2002, but I think in order to count as meeting someone, you have to physically meet them, and I was not introduced and say, hey, my name's Luke, what's your name? I used some weird pickup line when she was playing piano 6-7 months later in 2003, and then we started dating by February of 2003, and then we had a issue happen, and the rain story happened, and then 2 or 3 months after that, I got in a car accident, almost died, my ribs were shattered, and I thought she was going to leave me because I felt I was broken. And with my broken ribs and no job, because I couldn't do my job anymore, I lost my job, I had already bought a ring, and I lost my apartment too. So I was living with my parents again. I popped the question anyway. She said yes. I ended up moving with my parents across the country to Massachusetts. And Amber came out to me because I was in recovery for 2 years. I was in and out of the hospital. She moved to Massachusetts in 2005. We got married in 2006. So she's been taking care of me ever since. I still see myself as kind of broken. I can't really do a lot anymore. Always have rib pain, which you can kind of hear sometimes when I talk for long periods of time. But yeah, that's the story how we met. I flirted with a piano girl, asked her to church, was very aloof with her and shy. Guess you could call it simping by today's standards. I didn't start acting like myself until the third or fourth date, because I always told people that my personality is what made people not interested in me. But Amber told me later that she didn't like how I acted the first couple dates, because it was not creepy, but it didn't feel like the guy she met. The best way to explain it, do you guys remember the movie Just Friends? Where, oh my gosh, Ryan Reynolds' character meets Jamie again for the first time, and he basically, instead of acting like himself, he goes back to the dweeb that he used to be. And he brings out the Michael Bolton starter collection, wears the really goofy sweater. And I mean, I was still wearing my leather jacket. It's just I made my voice higher to sound more approachable. I wasn't speaking in a New York accent. I did my best to try to sound like I was from Chicago or whatever. It was terrible. How I got caught is I was on the phone with somebody from college, one of my New York buddies, and Amber was scared. She was searching for me in the theater because I left the theater to take a call. This was around the third date, and I'm talking to one of my buddies in New York, and here she was with Mr. Sensitive, and she got scared because she heard this guy with like this really deep voice, on the phone, like laughing really loud, like not the person she had been out with, and she was nervous at a minute, but she's like, "So that's who you are," and I'm like, "Huh?" And then ever since then, I was never worried because I thought she was gonna bolt personally, because here I was acting like I was acting like myself on the phone with my buddy, and here I was trying to be Mr. whatever girl I thought wanted to date or something like that. Because if I made it past the third date, that was usually, I was doing well. So yeah, that's what I did. I did spook her a little bit. It was funny though. Piano girl is best girl. Totes. Yeah, she was the music major. You should probably leave since most everyone here hates Brie. Is that a personal attack, Larson? I don't necessarily hate Brie Larson. I just think she's kind of crazy. She's a crazy person. But if she ends up in the DC universe, that's fine. Any closing comments you guys have? Because we've gone all over the place in this podcast. We've gone all over the place, yo. We started for an hour talking about something on topic. We opened up the floor and ended up here. K-Wing is Batman confirmed? Nah. Oh my gosh. Anime gas, nani? Meanwhile, I'm getting ghosted asking girls out on coffee or lunch. Poor girl. Piano girl, yeah. Amber can play piano, violin, and she can tell you she can play the drums, but I'm going to tell you right now, she can't. She can't. It's cute when she tries to play the drums, but no. Oh my gosh. I thought it was so adorable that she took drum lessons. She wanted me to take drum lessons with her. As one of our... Yeah, I think she does count that as a date. It would have been 6 months after we were together, or 4 months. And she was playing. She was learning how to play the drum because she needed to learn multiple instruments in order to get her music degree or something. I don't know. I'm not a music major. I have no idea. But she was learning the drums. Could not play them. And, I thought my blunt honesty would get her to leave me several times. It never did. I am very blunt. But I am a drummer, or semi-retired. I can't really do it because of my ribs anymore. I was very close to going pro before my car accident. But I guess I could say I was good enough to kind of go pro. You guys hear me play drums in some of these old recordings that I put on the podcast intros and stuff like that. That's me playing every rock rendition of Turtles and Batman and different things that you guys hear. I'm the drummer in those recordings. So, yeah. While she is an amazing violin player, she could have been first chair violinist, amazing opera singer, jazz singer, piano player. She can't play drums. And I'm not ashamed to say that. All right. Any other related questions? Oh, that accident ruined my life. I mean, well, okay. It didn't ruin my life. I got the girl. I did not end up becoming a police officer. So I became the black sheep of my family because my family's all in law enforcement. They're detectives, EMTs, sergeants, lieutenants. And I'm a game journalist, or was. I don't know what I am now, a YouTuber, streamer, content creator, I don't know. But my accident in 2004 caused me to change my life plan. Alter it. Because what I was planning on doing, I was planning on taking passing the test to be a patrolman in the Chicago area, marry Amber based on that salary, and, have, 6 kids by now, something like that. That was my plan as 21, 22-year-old me. And the car accident happened. I was playing clubs in Chicago on the side. I was a drummer, sitting in for people. I had a cell phone with me in the small town that we lived in outside of Chicago. And I felt kind of important because I'd have drummers call me up and say, "Hey, Luke, can you come sit in for me? I got this thing I got to do, and I can't get somebody to come in. And you're always looking to make a buck." And it's like, "Yeah, I'll come in." So, I would go in, I'd play drums for people, for different clubs and stuff like that. So, I could have done the studio musician thing, but the car accident changed everything. I had to come up with other things. So what I did is, when I was recovered enough, I started writing. And I got the attention of several game blog sites, and the blog sites led to freelancing for, publications I could name drop. And then that led to the YouTube stuff because of Amber's encouragement. And I kept up with the game journalist stuff until probably 2014. And then I just kind of, I don't know. I left my last place that I was writing for. I stopped in right before 2015. So I don't know if I'm technically still considered a journalist, or if I'm not. I don't know how that really works. I wrote from 2004 until 2014. 4 different publications as freelance, and I might have been staff at one, but that publication closed down. That was bought out by somebody else, and everybody got fired. So I like to use the term journalist sometimes because I still kind of see myself as that, but I don't know if I am or not anymore. I've been on YouTube for a long time. Long time. So Luke is Flash, but not a detective, but his family are detectives. Makes sense. I'm the Flash of my family. Okay. I'll have to bring that up. I'll have to bring that up to them. My cousins and... the Portuguese side, they're all cops. Cops and EMTs. gosh. Your top 5 game devs, they're not around anymore. My top 5 game devs are gone. I have 2 or 3 I like. Rocksteady's always up there. I like Square. Will always love Factor 5. Factor 5 was so cool. Oh, I got to interview those guys once. So cool. So down to earth. Did not speak English very well. But man, they knew their vision for the Star Wars games. Those guys were sick. So cool. Let's see, who else? So that's 3 with 1 developer. That's the way of the dodo. I like a lot of indie developers. I have a strong relationship with like 15 indie devs. Really cool guys. I've known them for years. I used to really like Enway. I knew Enway since PAX 2013, I think. Really cool guys. None of them are there anymore, so I don't know if I can count Enway. It's kind of like the people who make the Power Rangers fighting games. I knew a lot of them. They were really cool. Fun to work with. Let's see, can I think of anybody else? I really like the people who made Ghost of Tsushima. Sucker Punch. I've gained a lot of respect for them now because of that game. That's 4. I'm just going by developers I know personally. I'm not really talking about... I would name drop Nintendo, but you guys know that the K-Wings and Nintendo are not on good terms. So I don't like talking about it. Although technically it was Golden Harris, but still. Let's see, mainstream developer that I like. Still like Sega. Sega's really cool. Oh, wait, no. I don't think I have a contact at Sega anymore. No, I don't. They, as of 3 months ago, I have no Sega contact anymore. So I'm going to say Namco. Rocksteady, Factor 5, Enway, well, former Enway, Sucker Punch, and Namco. Because I do a lot of stuff on Namco, still. They've always been really good with me, so I like them. Yeah, I think those are my 5. K-Wing Squad, yeah. I do have a question. Is the CW Flash and Supergirl coming back? It felt like they ended the show halfway through. 2021. I don't hate Nintendo. I still play Nintendo games. I love the company. I love Reggie, Iwata, Miyamoto. I don't like their marketing company and their PR agency. I don't like those people. But I've never boycotted Nintendo. I don't agree with them. That's all. In my heart, I will always be a Nintendo fan. But on my business card, I play everything. Mostly. Who is my dream team for the Suicide Squad game? Okay. Harley Quinn, Deathstroke, Bane would be fun. Katana. Killer Croc. Wait, no. If we have Bane, we don't need Killer Croc. Ooh, Boomerang. You can't have a Suicide Squad without Boomerang. Need Boomerang. Captain Boomerang. He's fun. Love Captain Boomerang. Killer Frost. Yeah. I think, how big is that squad? Is that 7? I mean, Deathstroke, Harley Quinn, Bane, Katana, Boomerang, Killer Frost? That's 6. How big is the squad? 6 or 7? Who else? Who else would I put in? Who was this? No, that person wasn't a member of the squad. Does it have to be a villain? Because I want the colonel that works with them. I mean, even though you have Deathstroke, I really like the commander guy. So I'd go with him. That'd be my 7. No, you can't have Deadshot and Deathstroke on the same team. That's too OP. No Zeus. Am I going to stream the Fall Guys? Yeah, I it's either Deadshot or Deathstroke. I wouldn't have both. They're too... Deadshot is a master, marksman, but Deathstroke is a marksman and an assassin. You don't really need Deadshot if Deathstroke's on the team. I'm sorry, you don't. Rick Flag, yes. Amber's not going to watch this back. She never watches all my streams. She knows about the 9/11 girl, and she knows about Soup Girl. She doesn't like Soup Girl. In fact, we've never gone back to any college reunions in New York, or have I ever really talked to the buddy who ended up with Soup Girl. Very happy that they're happy if they're still together. I think last time I was on Facebook, they have like 3 kids. Most of their kids are... I don't know. I think their kids are like 10 or 12 now. Something like that. King Shark. Just saw the title. What's happening with DC? Oh my gosh. I can do a recap. So if you're just joining, DC has fired... Or not DC. Warner Media has let go of tons of DC important and non-important people. So, woke people got the boot. The weeds got pulled finally. But also we lost some really good, important lifeblood people that are the heart of DC Comics behind the scenes. Some really important editors that were common sense thinkers, and they worked with writers and the publisher to give us really great stories. Iron out the stuff that didn't work, put in stuff that did. Editors are a very important part of what makes comic books work. Well, the good ones. Bad editors just release whatever they feel like. They don't really add any constructive criticism. They don't do anything to change the writer's vision, good or bad. And sometimes that leaves you with a huge mess. So those people are all gone. Some writers and artists might have been fired too. Warner Media supposedly is using this as an example to the other branches of Warner Media. WB Games, WB Animation, WB Pictures, WMG, so Warner Music Group. Get rid of Warner Music Group. Just get rid of them. We don't need Warner Music Group. You got rid of the wrong department. AT&T. WMG is the thorn on every YouTuber's side, and they're just greedy copyright people. You should have gone after them now that I'm thinking about it. They don't need a department to flag people's videos. Fire those people. Soup Girl sounds crazy and obsessive. That's what Amber says. I'm not a big writer. I only write some scripts for characters and see what the team say. New Jersey has the best college anyway. You're not missing much not going back to New York College. No! Fernando. Amber actually wants to go to Princeton someday. I'm sure she will. She's smart enough. I just have to have the money to do it. That's the problem. You can't. It's very hard to get scholarships when you're married. So, she's incredibly intelligent. We need Deathstroke and Deadshot to team up. I mean, we're probably going to be going up against the strongest of the Justice League. You mean Batman? No. All right, I'll give you guys that. Deadshot and Deathstroke. Happy? Happy? I don't think you're getting both, though. I don't think you're getting Deathstroke either. Whoa. It's going to be Deadshot. It's going to be Floyd. It won't be Slade. Guarantee it. If I had to guess the Suicide Squad game roster, let's say it's 5 or 6 people, just based on popularity. King Shark, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang. For diversity, they probably put in Katana or Diablo. And Rick Flag. I think that's what the roster would be. Because King Shark is very important to the Harley Quinn show. He's very, very popular, so it would make sense people would want to play as him. People love Deadshot. People like Harley. People love Katana or Diablo. Rick Flag is a must. He has to be in it in some way because it's Suicide Squad. What was the other one I said? What was the other one I know I said? Boomerang. Yeah. Gotta have Captain Boomerang. You can't do it without Captain Boomerang. No way. What if it was Red Hood? Oh my gosh, you guys are really thinking. Black Manta. Been watching when K-Wife called you dad in a Lego Batman video and you were doing reviews and you said you do Arkham City review. The Arkham City review got claimed. I've erased reviews that... Okay, I had such an ego back in the day when I had a video get copyright claimed. Even after uploading it and I worked on it for months, I wouldn't post it. I'd just erase it because I'm not going to make any money on it. So when I did post my Arkham City and Arkham Origins and Arkham Knight reviews, they got copyright claims. I wouldn't make any money on them. I didn't want it to affect my walkthroughs, so I erased them. I have them archived somewhere, but, you know. I kind of wish, honestly, I didn't stream a lot of those Arkham Knight games. Again, because I'm getting hit with copyright now because I'm fresh in the system. Whereas those older videos, they went untouched and unbothered for 5, 6 years, 10 years, and now they're all getting hit. Well, not all of them. A good percentage of them are getting hit from copyright from WMG. Music Meister for Suicide Squad? Yeah. Jim Lee did announce that he was fired? No. No way. Are you serious? Tom King and Jim Lee are both gone? No. Say psych. Say psych. No. This isn't true. No way, not Jim. No. Oh, man, they got Eddie? They pretty much wiped out all of Jim Lee's executive... What? No! No, do not give Marie Jim Lee's job. Do not. Do not. Holy cow, there's so many good people on this list that are fired. There's only a couple bad weeds. I mean, Scott Snyder liked Marie, but Marie's not as good as Jim. I mean, you have this is Bleeding Cool though. It's not. I don't trust Bleeding Cool 100%. Yeah, Eddie's gone. That sucks. And one of my contacts is gone. That sucks. Not going to say who, but they're on the list. Dang it. Only a couple. Oh my gosh, only 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 woke troublemakers are gone, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Dang. Man, that's. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. That's not good. Oh man, I didn't realize it was that bad. Oh man. Oh gosh. I hope Jim stays. Everybody from Bob's thing too. All the people under Bob are gone. You know, looking at this, it almost looks like it was a woke hack up, like of all the good people. Like some of the crazies are still there, but some of the really crazy people are gone. But I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Wow. I mean, I heard that it was possible that some people were in trouble, but I didn't think all those people. That's a lot. Yeah, I know some of those people. Huh. It is like somebody died. Yeah, I'm devastated. I just saw the list now of all the people fired. That's insane. Yeah, we need. Is DC dead? It's not good. I'm not too informed on what's really happening right now, but I am aware that comics in general are being raided with activists changing characters and stories for their agendas. Well, I really thought that, Zelda, don't hit my microphone. I really thought that, because there's some crazy weeds. There's some crazy woke people that lost their jobs today. Yeah. But maybe they didn't agree with some of the other not so crazy woke people that are still at DC. Because a lot of rational people, old school DC, are gone. And not just that, but people that Jim Lee has been working with for a long time. Think of it like if you have a cabinet or you have like a student council. We'll go with that. You have a student council, right? You've got a vice president, you've got an executive, you've got a treasurer, you got all those people that are working for Jim Lee, right? Well, the school does something and they close your club down, but they keep you on as president for a while you train somebody else. Possibly they're training Marie to take over for Jim Lee, because why not? Not that I used to talk to that I've met. I've met some of those names at conventions, comic book related stuff. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, basically imagine the student council has been all fired, and they leave Jim Lee in place to train somebody else, and then eventually they get rid of Jim Lee and they have him retire. His entire team that worked closely with Jim Lee was all fired. It's like 6 people just under Jim Lee gone. People under Bob were fired. Excuse me, laid off. I think Tom King's staff is still there. People who work with Tom King. It is a bad thing, Desmond, because it's too much. It's very bad because the woke people that infested DC and Marvel basically brought it to its knees. They dropped book sales by more than half over the past 4 years. Comics have not improved, they've degraded. When people left, these activists and these woke people that praise certain things in comics, they don't buy them. At all. They don't support it. They support Activision, they don't support the industry. The people that supported the industry, like moi, and thousands of other people that were pull listers and stuff, we left. We don't want to read that trash. And there was no vacuum to fill that gap when we left. There still hasn't been. And now DC's going... I mean, what they're trying to do is they're replacing everybody. It could work. It couldn't. If they keep going the same route that they're going, they're dead. The company's over. If they keep trying to push like a lot of the strong stuff they've been pushing, like from the Vertigo books and other things like that, the fact of the matter is the company will fold. The AT&T will close it. I wish I could snap my fingers because that'd be more poetic or impactful, but I can't snap my fingers. So, yeah, this is bad. This is worse than I originally reported. Because I didn't have the list of names. I've been emailed the list of names. I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was like catastrophe. It is not good. It is very, very bad. Badski. Why did 2020 have... Well, I mean, you have to factor the pandemic. Yeah, some of these guys... I mean, honestly, you want to know who should be? If Jim Lee is out, Bob should be the co-publisher or publisher of DC Comics. Bob is putting in his time. Bob is really good at what he does. Bob was a no man to Dido, and Bob would have made a great president, and AT&T yeeted him. Marie is okay, but she's not a Jim Lee. If true, I mean, Jim's still on. He didn't put former DC on his Twitter like a lot of people have today. Unless he's going to announce that he's retiring. Oh my... If he announces that he's retiring at DC Fandom, oh my gosh. Maybe they're giving him time to, like, I don't know. This is very bad. I'm, like, shifting around in my seat. I feel like a friend of the family has died or something. I feel hollow inside. This sucks. It shows the guy who did Gotham. I don't know. Jeff Johns, he's not there. This puts a frown on my face. Yeah, this is something to really... Yeah, if he keeps it up, just ban him. I don't want to deal with that. It's yeah, I didn't realize it was this bad, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I could come at this with a little bit of levity earlier on, like, oh, okay, yeah, we got some bad people out, and unfortunately some good people too, but there's a lot of good people on that list. And it's not a rumor. They're gone. Now I guess we get to see who they get replaced with and how the comics do. Like the good news is, if you can call this good news, most of the books that this team was working on, we haven't read yet. We're still seeing a lot of their work currently. Joker War is, could be better. Trying to think what other arcs we'll get to see from the original team. Probably until March, maybe, if you're lucky. Unless they scrap everything that people were working on. On the list, I can confirm this. Some of the creepy people involved with DC 5G were fired. Some of Dido's cronies are gone. They're part of the yeeted. So DC 5G is dead. There's no way. Maybe they could do something a little different, but some of the names attached to DC 5G are yeeted. They're on the list. But there's still way more ouchies than victories from the firing. Too many ouchies. My bleeding out analogy is spot on because the duct tape is coming off on that wound. Either AT&T knows something we don't, or they're going to make a terrible mistake purposely. I mean, just throwing it out there. And now that I think about it, now I've seen the list, kind of like shocked. You can hear it in my voice. It honestly feels like this was done purposely so that it can be used as an example. Like I said jokingly, like, they're just, Warner Media is using this as an example to, get people to do better at their job, like in other branches. WB Pictures, films, WB Games. But I mean, they should have gutted WMG. That company does basically nothing. Warner Music Group is just joke. Also, they claim a lot of my videos, but I'm not biased at all. Ha! Going after the heart of their company is just... I know they don't see DC Comics as a heart, but that's where all the characters come from. This was a stupid idea. I don't even know how many of those people that were yeeted from today are going to show up at the DC Fandom event still, though. I don't think they will. The only way that they can fix this, and it's going to be very hard, is if Jeff Johns becomes president. And I know people don't like Jeff Johns right now, but, I mean, he's the only smart one they have left. If Bendis ends up with Jim Lee's position, you could say goodbye to DC. Marie's going to change DC. Bob would have kept DC going. Bob is pretty cool. He's not really a very outspoken guy, though. He's behind the scenes, kind of like Perry White type guy, if you're doing DC comparisons. Oof. I need to put that list down. I can't keep looking at this. This is terrifying. Bendis is still there as far as I know. I mean, honestly, what's going to happen if this... You know how when a lot of us left during the New 52 because we didn't like the direction the books were going? You know how people feel about DC Comics that are, people my age, and they don't like certain things over other things. And how we just kind of drop the books. Imagine DC is rebooted, we'll say, again with something worse than DC 5G, and they can't sustain the tens of thousands of people that drop buying their books. No matter how much they plead with the people on Twitter who agree with them to buy their stuff, the people that were actually, their consumers leave, DC will crumble on itself. Either they're going to do something amazing and surprise us, and AT&T has a plan, or they're going to make DC Comics look terrible by bringing in more crazies, more weeds, and taking the characters that we love, fictional or not, and have grown up with, and they're just going to tarnish everything and burn it to the ground. And AT&T is going to use that as, see, this is what happens when you don't sell. So if you repeat this, then we're going to fire everybody at W Pictures. We're going to fire everybody at Warner Brothers Games. If you do what DC Comics did, I mean, personally, it feels like a marketing stunt. It feels like we know this stuff doesn't sell, and we're a cutthroat corporation. So we let you, we experimented. We experimented with these different type of comic book stories and characters, and the public said, yeet. So you yourself have now been yeeted. DC Comics is now yeet. To use hip kid terms or whatever. That's what I see as a... Am I middle-aged yet? I don't know. Oh, gosh. I feel sick. Huh. I don't know. I guess we end the cast now. I don't really want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to keep looking at this list. Ugh. K-Wing, you is awesome, guy. You'll be okay. Oh, I'll be fine. I mean, I'm not a hardcore DC fan anymore anyway. I read Batman books. I am a super fan of Batman video games, and the animated series still, and some other things. I mean, these characters are always going to be around. They'll just live on through, different forms of media. Like I said, when you guys laughed at me, or some people laughed at me about 6-7 months ago, where I said, comic book characters will live on through film and video games and other media, and they'll die in comics. And people are like, no, that's never going to happen. Ha! I say to you, ha! Because you're witnessing it. What you're seeing right now is the birth pains of the beginning of the end. And I honestly hope I'm wrong, because I do not want traditional comics to disappear. It survived for 80 years. It could survive for another 80 years, like Jim Lee said, but not after today. That's... my gosh. I need to see something real quick before I make a weird assumption. Is Marie... I don't want to think like that bad mentality, but is she a white lady replacing Jim? I just said that out loud, but Marie Javins. Is she like a Kathleen Kennedy, or what did Marie... Why do I know that name? She is a white lady. Oh my gosh, no. That... See, how can people see that as, like, wrong if you already have... Oh my gosh. You already have Jim Lee as the face of the company. Aren't you removing a job from somebody that is a different nationality and then replacing them with... Oh my gosh. This is not good. Oh, I'm starting to think insane. I'm gonna go. No, this is not... This is not good. I don't even... But why would you... Okay, someone with a woke mindset, explain to me, okay, how it's okay to fire someone who's Asian American and then replace them with someone that's not... If they're... This is why I hate the diverse argument. Why would you... If you're championing for diversity and you already have someone who is of a different nationality, why would you then fire that person and bring in somebody that is not, but still champion for a company of diverse... I don't... It doesn't compute. It feels... To me, it feels racist. Like, we're helping, but at the same time, a lot of people on this list are not white people. Oh man, I'm getting just as bad as the lefties. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hate 2020. I hate it. This is wrong. This is wrong. I know this is wrong. I feel it in my gut. I'm disgusted. I don't want to even think like this. This is just this got to be a coincidence. Maybe. I don't know. Is it? Ugh. I don't want to go there. I love Jim, but I've never seen Jim. I've just seen Jim as a person. I've never even thought about race. I've always thought about people's merit. Oh, I'm becoming. I don't want to think like this. Oh no 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 no. Maybe this is what they want me to think. Maybe. Huh. I don't know what to think. I don't. Uh. Zoe Quinn, K-Wing, is she fired? I don't know. I don't see her here. Yeah, I know Ahsoka. I didn't want to talk about the Jay Lee thing because I felt terrible for Jay, and I didn't want to bring that up. I feel bad for even talking about Jim Lee like this. Yeah, I feel like I'm going insane right now. I don't want to go through this. This is the thing. I don't want to. I've always been a calm, intelligent thinker. I don't for I just can't see how this is a good idea. I mean, if Jim wants to retire, that's fine, I guess. But from what he talked about when he attended before the pandemic, he attended a special thing in Chicago, I think it was, and he talked about how as long as he's at DC, DC will never change. Maybe he knew. Maybe all those before the pandemic, maybe he knew something was up. Maybe the DC fandom thing is his idea too. I don't know. I've only met Jim Lee twice in my life, and he's such a cool guy. It's hard to think that a dude that chill is in charge of something so awesome. And I've always loved his art style too. Like my favorite Nightwing drawings were done by Jim Lee. I have a really cool Nightwing thing that Jim Lee did, and I had him sign it, I believe. I think I did. I hope I did. Oh, I'm gonna be so upset if he didn't sign it. But yeah, I loved his X-Men run. I like a lot of stuff that he's done. I don't understand why they wouldn't have Jeff Johns. I mean, I can understand because of the cyborg actor's meltdown, or calling Jeff Johns like complacent or something like that, when Jeff Johns was on the other side of the country doing Titans and whatever. But he's complacent. Let's just blame Jeff Johns. Um, the other guy definitely. I don't like the other guy. The other guy was on set, so there's no excuse. The other guy, I don't even remember his name. But Bob's gone. Jeff Johns isn't on the list. What about? I mean, is Scott? How could Scott Snyder do it? Scott Snyder's not too bad. He gave us the Court of Owls. It's better than nothing. Court of Owls is pretty important. His Justice League stuff wasn't too bad. He could be a pretty good co-publisher, but we do not need another Kathleen Kennedy, especially for DC Comics. Unless this is a plan to just close DC Comics. Oh God. No, they wouldn't do that. Would they? I hate corporations. I don't know what's going on anymore. Yeah, I'm losing it. Yeah, John Berg, I don't like him. I've never liked him. I'm sorry, guys. This is getting dark. Yeah, it is. It's Star Wars all over again. No, don't say that, Chad. No, don't say that. Don't say that, Chad. No, 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 no. There's got to be a silver lining here. I can always... No. I guess we have a wait-and-see attitude. We could do that. I don't even know what to title this video now, because I thought it was... No, it's still... I got nothing. I'm completely drawing a blank. I think that the publications like Forbes and whatever that are saying the doom of DC Comics as a branch, I mean, I don't know if they're wrong now. I mean, if they had access to this list, I just got the list a little while ago. Like during this podcast, somebody sent it to me. Because before, they were only saying like some editorial people that were gutted was like maybe 15, something like that. But I mean, I guess the estimates of tons of people losing their job today was not wrong. I just was not. I was not expecting to see some people's names on that list. Yeah. Wasn't expecting that. Because usually those people fly under the radar. Well, I mean, we can have a wait-and-see attitude. I don't know. I bet you Jim Lee's going to announce his retirement at DC Fandom. He's going to say, that's it. Barry, run back in time! Oh, I can't rest. I got to record stuff. Answer your question. Tom King basically tried to get Jay... I know about him. I know. Hey, K-Wing, with Suicide Squad and Batman game, are they PS5 only? Don't know. I'll go over Suicide Squad thing real quick. What I know. Suicide Squad announcement, August 22nd. Returning actors from Arkham, don't know. Connection to Arkham Knight, don't know. Cast of characters that are going to be from the Suicide Squad and Justice League, don't know. Type of gameplay style, don't know. I'm hoping it's kind of like the Avengers game, and the Arkham games, which probably will be, but I don't know. Can't confirm. Composer has not been announced. They've done a really good job of keeping the composer under wraps, unlike the Batman Gotham Knights game, which the composer was leaked 6 months ago. What else? What else do people ask me about Suicide Squad? What is the story that they're adapting? I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say the Suicide Squad would be coming out this year. Or it'll come out next year to hype up the Suicide Squad movie. Although if it's already finished and ready to go, and Warner Brothers desperately needs something to... Okay, let's talk about something positive real quick as we end. Okay. If I was in marketing for Warner Brothers, what I would do right now, based on the digital sales of Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy, Animal Crossing, Last of Us, and a couple other games, I would push for Suicide Squad to come out this year. If it's done, I would release it this fall. I would release it to steal the Avengers thunder and all the hype, because that's all anybody is talking about on Twitter right now, is not the Avengers beta, it's Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad, whatever. People want to know about it, people want their hands on it, and they don't want to wait a year. If it's done and ready, they should release it this year and rake in all those digital sales. Because if the pandemic continues, which it could, they'll make bank. And Warner Brothers has not done well WB games this year in terms of sales anyway. So give them your wisdom. I don't know if it's necessarily my wisdom, but K-Wing being no guys. There's if Lee like announces his retirement, you're going to turn into the Hulk. No, be respectful to Jim Lee. We should petition for Luke to take over DC. No, I'm telling you right now, I will not work for DC Comics. If it's turning into a rat hole, I don't want to. I'd have a stroke just from all the stress. No way. I'd probably get in a fist fight too. Oh, I don't think I could hold back if things got too crazy. I'm a very passive-aggressive person, but when I'm like harassed or somebody is literally provoking me, it's a good thing I'm not at a job around people because I don't know how to express pain. So I don't, in a volatile environment that the comic book industry is right now, I wouldn't even want to turn in a script for stuff. I don't even think I could talk to one of those crazy people on the phone. So no, please don't put my name anywhere. I don't want to be associated with any comic book stuff. It was my dream to write a Batman story, but maybe in 20 years I'll consider it. Because I have some good ideas. I not with the way things are, because people can't agree to disagree. It just leads to hate, craziness, schemes, whisper networks, witch hunts. They smile at you and then behind your back they're stabbing you. So I mean, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I've already been part of crazy stuff on YouTube, and I don't know how I came across it without killing myself, honestly. We need to petition Jim Lee to stay at DC Comics. Guys, there's nothing you can do. If he's leaving, he's leaving. I know this sounds awful. I should go to the DC head. No. Don't erase that comment. Erase that now. Don't. That's a bad. Pull that. I don't want to read that. That won't solve anything. That'll just make it worse. I want to see K-Wing make a cameo in any DC movie. I don't think I'd want to, but yeah, don't respond with violence. Like if you respond in any way, use your wallet. That's what people want. They want us to wild out. They want us to cause a scene. They want to show that their way is right. You be the better person and you vote your wallet. Yeah, if you don't like something DC's doing, or just don't support it. Don't pay for it. Don't do anything that's going to be dangerous or even joking about it. It's yeah. Don't. That's my words of wisdom on that. Think we can make a fun Batman story together, but I have some weird headcanons. We all do, Tyler. DC's not doing well, Angel. I don't want to recap. It's too much. On the bright side, Tim Drake is still a duck. I'm gonna time you out, Cross Gaming. Crossbow. The problem with an eye for an eye is both are blind by the end. That's right, Wolf. Very wise. Very wise. What is Warner Brothers' plans for the future of the DCU? I have no idea. I used to want to work at DC or Marvel, but both. Those dreams are dead. Yeah, I agree. I concur, Sonic. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going on Twitter tonight. If this list goes public, I mean, people are going to go nuts. Like, people that actually know the comic book industry are going to go insane. Maybe the list is already public. I don't know. I don't want to go on Twitter. I can't handle the stress. I got to wake Amber up so we can record Paper Mario. Yeah, I really want to record videos now. I am not in a good mental headspace right now. I didn't think I cared about DC as much anymore, personally. I guess I'm wrong. I don't want to see it fall apart like that. Um, my grandpa loved DC. Hmm. It was very important to him during the Depression. He was a Superman fan though, so. Uh, but we could always talk about superheroes together. That was cool. Hmm. Oh boy. I don't hate it. I hate the direction that it goes. I guess that's the. Yeah, it's good to delete that comment because that was said in anger, and I can understand that. Stay positive. Positive thoughts only. Yeah, I'm not a positive thinker. What's going on? What's going on? Just got out of work. It's the end of the world as we know. No. DC just fired a bunch of people. Really, really important people. Very bad. Jim Lee might be losing his job. K-Wing Damien leads Suicide Squad. Oh my gosh. Speaking of Superman, the Man of Tomorrow cartoon looks amazing. Agree. Yeah, the ice area is coming up, Fernando, but we're doing a boss battle tonight. When would I say DC was in their prime? DC bounced back in the 70s and 80s. In the 80s, they started to drift like they are now, and then they bounced back hard with the graphic novels thing. They changed comic books, modern comic books, because both Marvel and DC, outside of their Titan and X-Men books, were going. And then with some more intense storylines and some other things, changing their demographic and things like that, more readers came in, more people got interested because of the Dark Knight Returns. Graphic novels took off like crazy. Graphic novels became a thing because of Frank Miller. But books were boring. See, the difference between... I know you guys are trying to be hopeful, like, oh, there's just going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. No, not this time. What was happening with comic books before is they were getting boring. What's happening with comic books right now is they're becoming soapbox platforms. And readers were leaving books in the 80s by like 1985 because they were just bored. Comic books had just like, the fad was over to them. It wasn't really interesting. It was the same old, same old. It wasn't anything to keep them interested. A lot of them grew up. They didn't care. Nothing piqued their interest. The stories were meh. So you had Frank Miller come in and he did his first graphic novel. Changed the mindset of everything. DC went and brought him back later to do a retelling of Batman's canon called Batman Year One, which was actually part of the comics. It wasn't a graphic novel. And then from Year One and all this other stuff, DC kept changing and growing with its audience. So you had things like The Killing Joke, Death in the Family, Lonely Place of Dying, A Nightfall, Death of Superman. And it just kept going. And going and going and going and going and going. And then they tried to lighten it up a little bit after Flashpoint with the New 52. But then somewhere along the way, the New 52 started to lose readerships because the stories weren't interesting and also people didn't want to be preached to. It was too much preaching. Comic books have always had some aspect of social justice stuff. Stan Lee even said that. But there's an oversaturation of it now to the point where comic books are completely unrecognizable from how they were so many years ago. If you read any of Stan Lee's book about the X-Men, the book isn't trying to say that you're the problem. If you read, say, West Coast Avengers, or you read some of the crazy Marvel books from like we'll say past 2 years or something like that, before they started to do a course correction. A lot of the times the author was yelling at you, the consumer, and saying that you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. And eventually people were kind of like, I just don't like reading this anymore. It's not fun. This dude's just too preachy, or this lady's too preachy. And more people just kept dropping the comic books. They kind of became stale and boring, but it was different. In order for them to fix things completely, which they can't because they're trying to please a minority on Twitter that's very loud on their soapbox every day, screaming social justice or whatever, they would have to completely ostracize that group and actually reach out to the people that are going to buy their stuff. And corporations aren't going to do that. Corporations just changed the name of the Redskins to appease a very small group, where it's the rest of the people either don't care or, they think it's a dumb idea. But the corporation's going to do what the corporation's going to do. So DC is more or less, since they got rid of the soul of the company, more or less, the people with heart, and to be able to see all sides of the argument, only keeping people that are either far left or far right, you're going to have one of two things. You're going to have a DC Comics that's going to be super conservative, or a DC Comics that's going to be super left, where they'll paint people like Antifa as heroes, and they're going to do all kinds of crazy stuff, which they tried to do in some of their other books. So you would have to have somebody come in that could say no to both sides. You're wrong and you're wrong, and they would have to maverick it and shake it up to the point where people like me and all the thousands of people that have been dropping DC and Marvel for the past 4 or 5 years come back and start buying issues again. They'd have to do something that could basically attract everybody while not ostracizing everybody. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to villainize one group over another, and that's not going to sell books. So if that's what this corporation is trying to do, they're going to fail. And that might be the whole plan anyway. I don't know. We'll see. There's no way to candy coat it. But yeah, I gotta wake up Amber because PS5's gonna sell like crazy. Sorry for breaking this news to you. This is just so angry, and I need to tell someone else. Oh, Anti-Monitor, you want to become a member? You're welcome. Dan had an ego, yeah. It's not DC that made these decisions. Well, okay. DC did make some of the decisions to hire some of these weeds on Twitter. But if AT&T, I thought they were kind of the savior of DC several months ago when they fired Dan and a bunch of other stuff. We had a celebration stream with disco music. Now it's looking like it might have been an on purpose. I don't know. Only time will tell, guys. I don't know if I really want to follow this story or not, to be honest. I just want to focus on the video games and the new animated shows and movies. I hate leaving on a sad note, but I really got to go. I don't... All I could say is it's important as you as humans to listen to all sides of an argument. If you disagree with someone, just disagree with them. Don't, do anything to escalate any type of problem with another person. There are people all over the world that are going to have different opinions than you. Your job as a human being is to learn to, agree to disagree and work together. Because if you make these little groups that are, rising up against each other, all it's going to do is lead to a lot of problems. A lot of unnecessary violence and scary things, which I don't want to talk about. But just be good to each other. You guys in the chat, you're a good group. Be kind to one another, be polite, be civil. And at the end of the day, these are fictional characters, but for a lot of comic book fans, these are people that have been very important throughout their whole lives, who've come from broken homes, lost relatives, and, all this other stuff. They're heroes, and the idea that a part of them could go away forever has people kind of upset. And I think that you have a right to be upset, because I'm upset. So, be excellent to each other, always. And we'll be talking about the Suicide Squad closer to release. So please don't make mountains out of molehills. I don't know anything about the game. I'm not talking to Rocksteady about Suicide Squad. I promise. Okay? All right, guys. Take care. And I will see you on the next Knightcast. Good night. Smoke bomb.